Welcome to AI Otaku Studio. Like, subscribe, and enjoy this video. Chapter 26, Realism Rate Increases, Kyan Renxu returns to the palace. Like an ordinary person in the world of Blue Star seeing a big celebrity, Zhu Hen, after removing his mask, was the center of attention walking on the streets of Heaven-Do City. Being watched by so many people, he felt his realism rate suddenly increase a bit. He felt happy but frowned on the surface, picked up the silver mask again, put it on his face, and then flashed away, disappearing once more. When he appeared again, he had already arrived at an inn. Paying the money, opening a room, and entering. Zhu Hen walked straight to the bedside and sat down with a thud. This Emperor Zhu Yi, his eloquence is okay, but his acting is too poor, too exaggerated. Just now I almost couldn't hold back from punching him. Zhu Hen removed his mask, a look of disdain flashing across his face, and complained. Calling me a child, calling me henna. Does he really think he can take advantage of me, just because we share some blood relation? You old rascal, you are truly wicked. And saying the Heaven-Do Imperial Palace is my family forever. You just said you re-engraved my name in the genealogy. If it's forever, why re-engrave it? What about the previous name? HMPH, Zhu Hen let out a soft snort, feeling disgusted by the face of such a politician. However, upon second thought, he could understand it. No matter what, he came from the Balak royal family, had the bloodline of the Zhu clan, and was now a titled Douluo. He wanted to win him over to strengthen the combat power of the Zhu clan to resist Spirit Hall. This was human nature. And to win him over, using only benefits probably wouldn't work and was not a sure bet. After all, he himself on the sky screen didn't look like an ambitious person. Even after killing his way back to the kingdom of Barak, he didn't seize the throne. So the only way to get to him was to talk about feelings and bloodlines. Talk then, let you talk. In order to appear on the screen better and increase the character's realism rate, I'll endure you for a while. Zhu Hen took a deep breath and said to himself in his heart. Immediately, his mind moved, and he brought up his data panel. Name Zhu Hen, age, 21 spirit power, level 97 spirit, Imperial Power Sword / Emerald Swan Spirit Ring configuration. Yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black, 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 red, red / red, red, red fusion character. Super Douluo Zhu Hen realism rate, 99.2%, fusionable character, Sun God Descendant Yuan Kai, realism rate 46.3%. 99 point something %, I need to work hard for the rest. With his gaze lingering on the realism rate line, Zhu Hen nodded and said. Having appeared at the Imperial Ancestral Temple, and leaving in such a rush that he forgot to wear his mask, he had revealed his face and attire to many people. So even though Zhu Hen later flashed away and checked into an inn some distance away, his whereabouts were still tracked down by those with ulterior motives. Half an hour later, Heaven-Do Imperial Palace. Not long after Emperor Zhu Yi returned from the Imperial Ancestral Temple, the leader of his scouts, who was also his chief attendant, sent him a piece of intelligence. Opening the intelligence slip and looking at the content, Emperor Zhu Yi smiled and said, as expected, he didn't leave. My nephew still cares about home in his heart. Your Majesty is wise. Prince Zhu Hen should be just as you said, he just needs time to think it over. Once he figures it out, he will accept the status of heir you gave him, stay to wholeheartedly assist you, and help our Heaven-Do Empire defeat Spirit Hall, defeat the Star Luo Empire, and dominate the continent, the chief attendant said to Emperor Zhu Yi with a smile. Well said, haha tilde. These words hit the bottom of Emperor Zhu Yi's heart, and he immediately burst into loud laughter. Report. At this moment, a guard guarding outside the hall suddenly walked in, bowed to Emperor Zhu Yi, and said, Your Majesty, Crown Prince has returned. King is back, let him in. Emperor Zhu Yi stopped laughing, but the smile on his face did not disappear, and he ordered. Yes, Your Majesty. The guard took the order and retreated. Not long after, a handsome young man wearing golden-red magnificent robes and short golden hair stepped into the hall. This son greets Imperial Father. Kyan Renxu placed her right hand on her left chest and bowed to Emperor Zhu Yi. Get up, King, let Imperial Father guess. You didn't manage to invite Zhu Hen back from the kingdom of Barak this time, right? Emperor Zhu Yi walked back to the throne, sat down, and asked Kyan Renxu with a smile. Imperial Father, please forgive me. It turns out that as the future scenes are exposed on the sky screen, the future really will be changed. Younger brother did not go to the Balak royal palace, but guessed in advance that the king of Barak's favorite concubine and Prince Zhu Tian would flee from there, so he went to the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School and had a big fight with Bone Douluo there. No, calling it a big fight isn't quite right. I heard that after just a few exchanges, Bone Douluo was defeated, and he was also buffed by many spirit masters possessing the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile Pagoda. You should have received this news too, Imperial Father. Kyan Renxu looked up at Emperor Zuyi and asked. This old immortal, Heaven Dew City, is so close to the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. He should have known about Zhu Hen causing a scene there earlier than I did. Since Zhu Hen went to the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, it was naturally impossible for him to appear in the Kingdom of Barak at the same time. He knew, so why ask if I returned empty-handed? HMPH, only a few exchanges. If that child Henna had the intention, he could have defeated Bone Douluo in one move. What number 1 defensive Douluo? He is quite powerful compared to those mediocre spirit masters, but compared to the Killen of our Zhu clan, he is far behind Tilda. Emperor Zuyi waved his hand and said disdainfully. The corners of Kyan Renxu's mouth twitched slightly, and she lowered her head, saying, Imperial Father is right. What you said is correct. I also received news about Henna going to the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, which is why I knew you would return empty-handed. But Kingha, do not be discouraged. Although you returned empty-handed with me as your father, this matter can still be accomplished. Emperor Zuyi's tone changed, suddenly full of confidence and pride. Hearing this, a flash of shock appeared in Kyan Renxu's eyes. Imperial Father, what do you mean? I have already met that child Zhu Hen. He is truly a good child. He even knew to use honorifics for me, his uncle. Speaking of this, Emperor Zuyi couldn't help but plead for justice for Zhu Hen. That bastard Kundra, he only has eyes for women. He actually deposed his original wife and abandoned his child for the sake of beauty. Back then he even petitioned me, saying Henna was unfilial and should be expelled from the royal family. It is truly outrageous. Fortunately, Henna is blessed and has not encountered any danger while outside all these years. Otherwise, he would truly be a sinner of our Heaven Dew Imperial Palace. Imperial Father, Uncle didn't just do it for beauty back then, it was also to win over the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. You said that back then, have you forgotten? Kyan Renxu whispered a reminder to Emperor Zuyi. Hearing this, Emperor Zuyi's expression stiffened. The next second he quickly waved his hand and said, Nonsense, I never said such things. I was against Kundra abandoning his wife and son from the very beginning, but he was determined and even used deceitful means to trick me, which is how he succeeded. Kyan Renxu. Chapter 27, The Angry and Powerless Douluo. Kyan Renxu did not expect that Emperor Zuyi, as a monarch of a nation, could be so shameless. You supported Kundra in deposing his original wife and banishing his legitimate son back then, all to show goodwill to the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. This was something Zhu King had personally said to her before. Did your son lie? Full of lies, changing his face at the speed of light. Filthy, Emperor Zuyi, you really are a filthy politician. Kyan Renxu felt disdain in her heart, but on her face, she hurriedly adopted an appearance of admitting her mistake, lowering her head as she said, Father, you are right to teach me a lesson. It was this child who was babbling nonsense. Seeing Kyan Renxu admit her mistake so quickly, Emperor Zuyi nodded and did not rebuke her further, but still reminded her, remember, from now on, no matter who you speak to, you must say it that way. I never agreed to that matter, and have always held an opposing opinion. All the blame lies with Kundra, do you understand? This child understands. Also that child Zhu Hen still has some knots in his heart. When he met with me, he actually refused to acknowledge his own name, claiming he was called Giant Hen like on the sky screen. This is all because he has been away from the family for too long. Since you have returned, as his older brother, you should go visit him and take the opportunity to bring your relationship closer. You are the crown prince. Having a good relationship with Zhu Hen will be beneficial to you in the future, Emperor Zuyi said. This child understands. Then, Father, I wonder where younger brother Zhu Hen is currently staying. Hearing Emperor Zuyi's words, a glimmer of sharpness flashed in Kyan Renxu's eyes. She raised her head, revealing an expression of great joy and anticipation as she asked. He is at the 4 Seasons Inn in the south of the city. Then this child will go visit him right away, Kyan Renxu said immediately. Remember, do not go empty-handed, bring a gift. It does not need to be very precious. The point is that it can reflect your concern, Emperor Zuyi instructed. Yes, this child understands. On the other side, inside the medical room of the Heaven Dew Royal Academy. Du Guyan lay on the hospital bed, her entire body wrapped in gauze. Although her eyes were open, there was no light left in them. Standing beside her bed were over a dozen people. 6 were students, 5 were nursing staff, and 2 were healing-type spirit kings who were currently using their spirit abilities to treat her. There was one more person, dressed in a simple grey robe. His eyes, beard, and hair were all in green. His cheeks were sunken, and his facial expression was rigid, giving people a sense of being illusory and unreal. It was precisely Douluo Yan's grandfather, the poisoned Douluo Dalu. Looking at his granddaughter's miserable state, Douluo's heart felt as if it were being twisted by a knife. He wished he could bear such injuries and pain in her place. Unfortunately, this was not something that could be replaced just because he wanted to. Zhu Hen, you harmed my Douluo Yan. Even if I have to risk my life, I will find you to exact revenge. Douluo clenched his fists, gritted his teeth, and thought viciously in his heart. Young sect master. At this moment, another student from the Heaven Du Academy ran in. When he saw Douluo, his expression froze. He hurriedly bowed to him, then said to the young man who was sitting by the bed, looking at Douluo Yan with a worried face, "It's bad, young sect master. There is news that His Majesty has already met with Zhu Hen. His Majesty has even issued an imperial decree to enfeoff him as the heir to the Balak kingdom, and also. Also what? Yu Tianheng asked with a frown, his tone very displeased. He also invited him to stay in Heaven Du City to assist him. Before Yu Tianheng could speak, upon hearing this, Douluo instantly could not sit still. He snorted coldly, and in his anger, he activated his jade phosphorus serpent emperor spirit. 9 spirit rings, yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black, 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 emerged from beneath his feet, and a powerful pressure instantly enveloped everyone in the room. Douluo Yan, who was already seriously injured, let out a low, uncomfortable sound under this pressure. Hearing this, Douluo immediately reacted, deactivated his spirit, and dispersed the pressure. As the pressure vanished, everyone let out a heavy sigh of relief. Emperor Zhu Yi, what a good Emperor Zhu Yi. I have served as a guest elder for your imperial family for so many years, filling the gap in your titled Douluo combat power. Now my granddaughter stood up for your son and was harmed into this state by that Zhu Hen. It would be one thing if you didn't think to help me get revenge, but instead you go and win over my enemy. Ha ha ha, truly mean and ungrateful, heartless and soulless. When he said the last 2 terms, the corners of Douluo's eyes turned an angry red, and he scolded extremely loudly. The 2 healing-type spirit kings who were treating Douluo Yan could not help but frown upon hearing this. They were not spirit masters invited from outside by Douluo and Yu Tianheng, but teachers of the Heaven Du Royal Academy serving the imperial family. This poisoned Douluo scolding His Majesty right in front of them made them feel quite awkward. Shall we continue treating this Douluo Yan? After hesitating for a moment, considering Douluo's formidable nature, the 2 teachers still followed the idea that preserving their lives was paramount and continued to treat her, only reducing the output of their spirit power, and the effect of their spirit abilities was consequently weakened. Senior Douluo, please do not get too angry. His Majesty wanting to win over Zhu Hen is also a matter of reason. Among the students gathered around Douluo Yan's bed, a young girl wearing a light purple dress, with superior looks and a seemingly composed appearance, said to Douluo after catching her breath. What did you say? Douluo Yan is your classmate. Douluo turned his head and glared at the girl, shouting. I know, which is why I am here taking turns with the 2 teachers to treat her. But Senior, His Excellency Zhu Hen comes from the imperial family, is His Majesty's nephew, possesses level 98 spirit power, and also has twin spirits. It is impossible for His Majesty to let such a clansman drift outside. We should have known this long ago, shouldn't we? Yi Lingling said in a calm tone. Douluo snorted coldly and did not retort. In fact, he also understood that Emperor Zhu Yi's choice was very normal. If he were him, he would do the same. Compared to himself, Zhu Hen possessed the imperial bloodline and was naturally one of their own. Besides this, whether it was spirit, spirit power, spirit bone, or even domain, he was inferior to Zhu Hen in everything. The only thing he could use to defeat him, other than using poison, was probably his age. And regarding using poison, could his poison affect Zhu Hen, who possessed the Emerald Swan spirit? He had absolutely no confidence. Such a self to the Heaven Du imperial family was naturally far less valuable than Zhu Hen. Douluo sighed in his heart and suddenly felt so powerless. Although he had just been thinking in his heart that even if he had to risk his life, he would avenge his granddaughter, reality was too cruel. Facing that Zhu Hen, Even if he risked his life 10 times, he feared he wouldn't be able to hurt him, let alone kill him. Borrowing external help. Spirit Hall had a grudge against him, so there was no need to consider them. The Heaven Du Empire was obviously impossible. Would the Star Lu Empire help him? Unless their emperor had lost his mind, they definitely would not help. So in the entire Spirit Master's world, the only ones left with the ability to help him were. Douluo glanced in the direction of the 7 treasure glazed tile school, then slowly shifted his gaze to Yu Tianheng, who was sitting by Douluo Yan's bed. Chapter 28. Unite the power of 3 parties to oppose Zhu Hen. Among the upper 3 sects, the Clear Sky sect lived in seclusion, and the 7 treasure glazed tile school had no friendship with him, but the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect was different. Yu Tianheng was the young sect master of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect. He and his granddaughter were in love, and perhaps the 2 of them had even done that. Upon hearing that Douluo Yan had been injured by someone, he had immediately rushed over to take care of her. When he learned the identity of the perpetrator, he did not shrink back, but instead felt as angry as he did and wanted revenge. He would definitely help him. Of course, as the dignified poison Douluo, he did not need a spirit elder like him to join forces with him to deal with Zhu Hen. The helper he truly needed was this kid's grandfather, the Thunder Douluo, Yu Yuanzhen. Yu Yuanzhen was a level 95 attack system titled Douluo who possessed the #1 beast spirit in the world, the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon. Back during the Continental Sect tournament, he had defeated Gu Rong on the arena stage, and his formidable strength was simply awe-inspiring. If he joined forces with him, perhaps they could put up a fight against that damned villain, Zhu Hen. Come to think of it, that Zhu Hen had also caused a huge ruckus at the 7 treasure glazed tile school not long ago. He also had a grudge against Ning Fengzhai's cousin, that princess of the kingdom of Barak, named Ning Pianpian. Perhaps he could contact the 7 treasure glazed tile school as well to help each other out. Yes, by gathering the power of himself, the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect, and the 7 treasure glazed tile school, there would definitely be no problem dealing with that Zhu Hen. By then, Douluo Yan's revenge could be avenged. Thinking this, Douluo became a little excited, suddenly feeling that reality didn't seem as cruel as he had thought. He still had hope for revenge. Immediately, he spoke to Yu Tianheng, kid from the Yu family, Yu. Tianheng, just as he had uttered the word Yu, a shout suddenly came from outside the door. Everyone turned to look and saw a burly middle-aged man dressed in blue martial attire standing outside the door. Second grandfather, Yu Tianheng stood up, a flash of surprise in his eyes. Vice Sect Master, the student who had come to report to Yu Tianheng earlier, hurriedly bowed his head in salute upon seeing the newcomer. That's right, the person who arrived was Yu Yuanzhen's own younger brother, the current second-in-command of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect, Yu Luomian. Tianheng, come out with me, I have something to discuss with you. Yu Luomian did not greet Douluo, ignoring him completely. With his hands behind his back, he spoke majestically to Yu Tianheng. Yes, second grandfather. Yu Tianheng agreed without a second thought and walked out of the room, followed closely by the student who had come to report the news. Watching them leave, Douluo frowned. For some reason, he suddenly had a bad feeling. Then time ticked by, but Yu Tianheng never returned. Strange, why hasn't boss come back yet? What are they chatting about outside? I'll go take a look, Oslo said, feeling strange, and walked outside to check the situation. A while later, Oslo ran back and shouted to everyone, "It's bad, I didn't see boss outside. I asked around, and someone saw Vice Sect Master Yu knock boss out and take him away, saying he wanted to take him home and lock him up to keep him from doing anything stupid." Bang! As soon as these words were spoken, Douluo kicked over the table beside him in an instant. He understood. He understood why Yu Luomian had come here. That old guy knew about the relationship between Yu Tianheng and Douluo Yan. Hearing that Douluo Yan had been injured by Zhu Hen, he was afraid that Yu Tianheng would offend Zhu Hen for her sake, so he had rushed over to knock him out and take him back. At the same time, it also signaled the attitude of the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect to him. They would not offend a super Douluo for the sake of a young sect master's girlfriend like Douluo Yan. Bastard, Douluo cursed in anger. The hope that had just appeared was shattered so quickly. No, it hasn't been shattered yet. Even if the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect doesn't make a move, if the 7 treasure glazed tile school can join forces with this old man, then there is still hope. Douluo took a deep breath and said to himself in his heart, Fengzhai, how about leaving them here? In a small alley next to the Four Seasons Inn in the south of Heaven-Du City, Chen Xin, holding two people who had been hogtied, asked Ning Fengzhai beside him. Just as Zhu Hen had said to Zhu Yi, his scheme of drawing him out by restoring the royal honor and opening the imperial ancestral temple was not subtle. Many people could see through his intentions, and this naturally included Ning Fengzhai, who had long guessed that Zhu Hen might be in Heaven-Du City. After deciding to abandon Ning Pianpian and her son and end the conflict with Zhu Hen, Ning Fengzhai had brought Chen Xin that very day, escorting the mother and son to this place. Then he heard Emperor Zhu Yi's decree and guessed that the other party was trying to draw Zhu Hen out. Thus, he sent some disciples of the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile School to visit the imperial ancestral temple, while simultaneously sending out many spies throughout the city. Not only did he learn that Zhu Hen had appeared at the imperial ancestral temple, and that Emperor Zhu Yi was constantly trying to build relations and recruit him, but he also discovered that Zhu Hen's current lodging was right here at the neighboring Four Seasons Inn. Therefore, he and Chen Xin had escorted Ning Pianpian and her son here. Ning Fengzhai looked at the environment of the alley, nodded, and said to Chen Xin, "Let's do it here, Uncle Sword." All right, having received the answer, Chen Xin swung both his arms and threw the mother and son he was holding out. The two of them fell to the ground in a sorry state. "Cousin, you cannot treat us like this. We are flesh and blood, having been protected in the sect just a few days ago, only to be abandoned by the very people protecting her in the blink of an eye, and not just a simple abandonment but being dumped right near her enemy, was something Ning Pianpian completely could not accept. Fallen on the ground, she ignored the pain in her body, looked at Ning Fengzhai and cried out, hoping to awaken his familial affection at this final moment. "However, those who gave birth to me, and those I gave birth to, these are my true flesh and blood." Ning Fengzhai looked down at Ning Pianpian, who had fallen to the ground, and said to her indifferently, "Pianpian, the sect has been good enough to you. Over these years you have relied on Kundra's favor to constantly interfere with the sect's business in the Balak Kingdom. How many kickbacks you have taken, you know in your own heart. In the Balak Kingdom, some ministers opposed your son becoming the heir, and you wanted the sect to help you eliminate them, which the sect did, and also helped you do many other shady things. Now that it has come to this, the sect has no choice. If you must blame someone, blame yourself for not being clean and efficient back then. If you had not let Zhu Hen go and had eliminated him early on, he would not have become a super Douluo today and turned around to want to take revenge on you. Because of you, Uncle Gu has even been injured by him. You bear the surname Enning. You wouldn't want to see the Seven Treasure Glazed Tile School slaughtered by that monster, would you?" Cousin, I was wrong. I shouldn't have taken those kickbacks back then. I will reflect, I will definitely reflect. Tiana, hurry and beg your uncle for mercy, Tiana." Hearing his mother's words, Prince Xu Tian, who had been thrown to the side and was crying out in pain, looked toward Ning Fengzhai and said, "Uncle, Tiana, be good. In the next life, Uncle will definitely treat you well." Meeting Prince Xu Tian's gaze before he could finish his sentence, Ning Fengzhai smiled and said to him. Then putting away the smile on his face, he said to Chen Xin beside him, "Uncle Sword, cut out their tongues, so that when Zhu Hen sees them later, they won't speak nonsense." Chen Xin nodded in response, then opened his right hand. Swoosh, the 7-kill sword appeared in his hand. Inside the Four Seasons Inn. The moment Chen Xin activated his 7-kill sword spirit, in the guest room, Zhu Hen, who was meditating with his eyes closed, suddenly opened his eyes. He turned his head to look toward the east, his eyes deep, and muttered, "Good sword." Chapter 29, Persona Scouting the Path. The King Power Sword Spirit is a top-tier attack system tool spirit, and the Imperial Power Sword that benignly mutated from it is an even finer specimen among sword-type spirits. Zhu Hen, who possesses this spirit, has a strong sense for other sword-type spirits. At this moment, he very clearly sensed the presence of a spirit master with a powerful sword-type spirit near the hotel. A powerful sword-type spirit. A name appeared in Zhu Hen's mind. Sword Douluo Chen Xin. He parted his lips slightly and murmured the name. Immediately, he took a deep breath, steadily finished his cultivation, then got off the bed, walked to the window, and looked toward the direction he had sensed. The 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School had discovered his lodging, and Chen Xin had come in person. Was he here to deal with him? Could it be that they thought they could win by relying on Chen Xin and Gu Rong joining forces, plus the support of Ning Fengzhai? Or perhaps they had other helpers. For a moment, Zhu Hen was unsure of what the 7 treasure glazed tile school was planning. After thinking for a while, the corners of his mouth lifted slightly as he came up with a good idea. Tilda, he stepped back from the window, and a dazzling golden light emerged around him. Immediately following this, his appearance and temperament began to change while he was enveloped in the golden light. Even his clothing shifted, and soon he had transformed into the likeness of another person. Yuan Kai. Current fusion, fictional character Yuan Kai Spirit Power, rank 97 Peak Spirit, Sun Spirit Ring, Red First Spirit Ability, Great Sun Heavenly Net Domain Ability, Golden Crow Pierces the Sun, Realization Rate, 46.59%. The golden light vanished, and the system panel appeared before Zhu Hen. Looking at the current data of this persona, Zhu Hen nodded and thought to himself, this is enough. Yes, as the realization rate increased, Yuan Kai's son Martial Soul now possessed a spirit ring, and it was a 100,000-year spirit ring at that. This spirit ring also granted him 2 spirit abilities. One was the domain type Great Sun Heavenly Net, and the other was the attack type Golden Crow Pierces the Sun. Although having over rank 90 spirit power, but only 1 spirit ring was highly illogical, the character of Yuan Kai was inherently beyond the bounds of logic, so it was actually easier for people to accept. The one who has a grudge with the 7 treasure glazed tile school is Zhu Hen, not Yuan Kai. Even if Yuan Kai had some dealings with Spirit Hall in the sky screen, he left there afterwards. As long as Ning Fengzhai isn't a fool, he wouldn't dare to make an enemy of Yuan Kai, Zhu Hen thought to himself. Then with a flash, he vanished from the spot, and the room instantly became empty. Near the alley, Ning Fengzhai and Chen Xin were hiding in the shadows, observing the situation over there. Fengzhai, do you really believe that once Zhu Hen discovers the mother and son and completes his revenge, he won't be hostile towards our 7 treasure glazed tile school anymore? Chen Xin asked Ning Fengzhai beside him, looking at the 2 figures who had their tongues cut out by him, struggling and whimpering on the ground. Rest assured, Uncle Sword, judging from the sky screen, Zhu Hen is clear about grievances and grudges. The ones who harmed their mother and son were Pian, not our 7 treasure glazed tile school. When he fought Uncle Bone earlier, it was also because he guessed that they were hiding in the sect and that we were protecting them. As long as he kills his enemy with his own hands and we don't retaliate, this grudge will naturally come to an end. Of course, wanting him to have a favorable impression of us is almost impossible, Ning Fengzhai replied. Chen Xin nodded and thought to himself, I hope so. Time passed bit by bit, and many passers-by had arrived in this alley. When they saw the mother and son, Ning Pian and her child, struggling on the ground, they were all greatly shocked. However, adhering to the continental custom of minding one's own business, no one stepped forward to help. Instead, they whispered to each other and spread the news, and soon a crowd of onlookers had gathered here. With a commotion of this scale, Zhu Hen, who was not far from here, must have surely noticed it. He should come down to see what happened, right? Ning Fengzhai thought, using conventional logic. And he was right, Zhu Hen had indeed come. But what he didn't expect was that Zhu Hen had come wearing a different face. A young man with short hair, dressed in golden, luxurious clothing, wearing a black mask covering the lower half of his face, and with a mole near his right eyebrow, appeared from out of nowhere and gathered there along with the crowd. It's them. He had originally intended to scout the actions of the 7 treasure glazed tile school, but he hadn't expected so many passers-by to be gathered here. He had just come over to take a look, but when he saw the 2 blood-covered figures lying on the ground, Zhu Hen's eyes widened slightly. Ning Pian and his cheap brother, Prince Zhu Tian. What was going on? Weren't they hiding in the 7 treasure glazed tile school? He had been planning to visit the 7 treasure glazed tile school again, next time under the pretext that Gu Rong had deceived him, just to boost the presence and battle record of the semi-fictional character, Super Douluo Zhu Hen, in the Spirit Master's world. How did they end up here in Heaven Du City, tied up and looking like they had their tongues cut out? Did I guess wrong? Did that old man Gu Rong really not lie to me back then, and Ning Pian really wasn't hiding in the 7 treasure glazed tile school? No, that's not right. Zhu Hen, who had just begun to doubt himself, immediately reacted and figured it out. His guess at the time had been correct. The aura of the powerful sword-type spirit that had appeared in his perception just moments ago was the best proof. Chen Xin had been in this vicinity earlier, and then waited for him to arrive, only to see the tied-up Ning Pian and her son. Could this be a coincidence? Impossible. Therefore, there was only one explanation. the 7 treasure glazed tile school had decided to abandon them, and had even specially tied them up and dumped them next to the hotel where he was staying. HMPH, this must be Ning Fengzhai's arrangement. If it were go wrong, even if he decided not to protect them anymore, he would have let them escape on their own. After figuring it out, Zhu Hen let out a soft snort, thinking to himself with a hint of disdain. In order not to offend a powerful enemy, a former good sister immediately became a disposable pawn. This schoolmaster Ning was truly realistic. However, it was understandable. Living in this cruel spirit master's world people, how could they not be realistic? That's the princess of the kingdom of Barak and Prince Zhu Tian, who appeared on the sky screen. Who made them like this? Could it be His Excellency Zhu Hen? It's possible. Didn't they say His Excellency Zhu Hen appeared in the city today, and many people saw him? The gathered passers-by were whispering among themselves. Glancing at the discussing passers-by, Zhu Hen thought for a moment, closed his eyes, and quietly released his mental force to sense the auras of the people around him. Sure enough, although the other party was trying their best to hide, he still sensed a very strong aura not far away, about 70% of his own level. It had to be Chen Xin. HMPH, trying to end a grudge by abandoning a sister and a nephew. Ning Fengzhai, you have quite the plan, Zhu Hen thought to himself. Immediately, he raised his arm, pushed aside the passers-by blocking his path, and strode forward. Chapter 30, Executing Ning Pianpian, First Encounter with Qian Renxu. Hey, what are you doing? What is wrong with you? Even watching the fun requires a cue. Why are you pushing to the front? The passers-by whom Zhu Hen pushed aside pointed at him and muttered. Zhu Hen paid no attention to these accusations. He strode over to Ning Pianpian and her son, who were receiving no help, and looked down at them from a commanding height. Let me tell you from now on, in the inner palace of the Balak kingdom, I am the master. What do legitimate or illegitimate statuses matter? Only unfavored princes lack status. Father King favors my mother the most, and he favors me the most too. When I become the king, I will definitely demote you to a lowly slave. Looking at their miserable state, many distant, unpleasant voices flooded into Zhu Hen's ears like a tide. Unlike the completely fictional character Yuan Kai, the character Super Douluo Zhu Hen is semi-fictional because all of his previous experiences were real. As a transmigration user, after arriving in this world, he wasn't targeted by Spirit Hall, nor was he harassed by the Shrek 7 devils. Instead, he encountered a great enemy within his own home. At that time, although he had the heart to resist, he couldn't perform an awakening of his spirit before the age of 6, and he held no power. Even as a transmigration user with many ideas in his head, ideas were ultimately just ideas. Without a foundation to practice them, he couldn't take action, so he could only silently endure and passively defend himself. Fortunately, the heavens did not let him down. He met Master Su Yuntao in Nuding City, awakened the top-tier spirit Emerald Swan, and possessed full innate spirit power. Although healing-type spirits are difficult to cultivate as a transmigration user, he knew of the existence of immortal herbs, so he had the confidence that he could take revenge in the future, though it would take longer. Later, the system arrived, his strength skyrocketed, and his confidence in taking revenge in the future immediately turned into the certainty that he could take revenge immediately. But for some reason, he wasn't in a hurry back then. He was even thinking about how to maximize the benefits. Now, seeing this mother and son with his own eyes again, that heart that was originally not in a hurry was now uncontrollably beating faster again. Sure enough, he was still a human after all, not a machine without emotions. For some things, one shouldn't consider the pros and cons, but should follow one's heart. Thinking this, Zhu Hen let out a heavy breath, and then a dazzling ball of golden light appeared behind him, resembling a miniature sun. At the same time, a huge red spirit ring emerged from beneath his feet. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to AI Otaku Studio. A 100,000-year spirit ring. The crowd watching instantly became panicked and quickly retreated. Then someone recognized the spirit that appeared behind Zhu Hen. That is, the Sun Martial Soul. Once these words were spoken, everyone immediately associated it with something, and looking at the 100,000-year spirit ring at Zhu Hen's feet, many people hurriedly covered their mouths in excitement. Hey, there's Fengzhai, that person is. Not far away, Chen Xin, hiding in the shadows, had his pupils constrict, and he became just as nervous as the passers-by. Enning Fengzhai was the same. He gripped his cane tightly and solemnly uttered a name, Yuan Kai. Why would he appear here? What is he trying to do? Chen Xin asked, puzzled. Enning Fengzhai did not speak. His brows were locked tightly, staring intently at that side. MMPH. Ning Pianpian and Prince Xu Tian, who had their tongues cut out, looked at Xu Hen, who had come to their side. Seeing him activate his spirit and a 100,000-year spirit ring emerge from beneath his feet, they were both terrified. Although they didn't recognize this person, the posture clearly showed ill intent, and they immediately struggled even harder, making some sounds. Make way, make way. At this moment, several people dressed as palace guards also arrived here, pushing the onlookers and demanding they clear the path. Then, a young person wearing magnificent red and white robes, with short golden hair, walked in here under the escort of the guards. As soon as she entered and saw that dazzling golden light, and saw that huge red spirit ring, Cayenne Renxu's expression changed drastically. The Sun Martial Soul. A 100,000-year spirit ring. This person is. I am not a person who likes to meddle in other people's business, but there is one kind of thing I absolutely cannot stand, and that is lacking the bearing a mature adult should have and bullying innocent old, weak women and children. On the sky screen, you once persecuted the matriarch, framed your stepson, and used charm on your husband to exile him. These things are not false, right? A cold voice came from under the mask. MMPH. Ning Pianpian and Prince Xu Tian had looks of terror on their faces. Struggling, they finally stood up and wanted to escape from here, but unfortunately, being tied up, they could only hop away. Moving like this, their speed wasn't even as fast as a normal elderly person walking. How could they possibly escape? It seems the content on the sky screen is all true. That's right, just like my own affairs, how could it be fake? Having decided to take revenge now, but with his reasons still intact, not forgetting what identity he was currently using, Xu Hen muttered in Yuan Kai's voice. Immediately, he raised his arm, and scorching golden flames condensed in his palm, illuminating the space within a radius of 1,000 meters. Vicious woman, go repent in the dark hell, Xu Hen shouted. As his words fell, the true sun fire in his palm was compressed to an extreme point, turning into an extremely thin beam of golden light that shot out violently. Swish! The light instantly pierced through Ning Pianpian's body. The terrifying temperature and powerful destructive force destroyed her vitality in an instant. She widened her eyes, her pupils losing focus at a speed visible to the naked eye, and her body, like paper ignited by flames, began to turn into ashes. Soon as the night breeze blew, the person who could still hop around just a moment ago had completely disappeared. Not even ashes remained. After dealing with Ning Pianpian, Xu Hen lowered his arm and looked at Prince Xu Tian, who was stunned in place, watching his mother being killed, tears streaming down, having even forgotten to cry out. He hesitated for a moment and did not attack him again. This wasn't because his kindness was triggered, but because killing him did not fit Yuan Kai's persona. With the corner of his eye, he looked at Cayenne Renxu, who had arrived here. This attire and the guards around her. The crown prince, she must be the crown prince. HMPH, let the identity of Xu Hen handle his good little brother. Cayenne Renxu must have come here under the orders of Xu Yi. If she encounters Prince Xu Tian, she won't let him escape. She will definitely send him to me. I'll just wait at the inn, Xu Hen thought to himself. Immediately, he flicked his sleeve, retracted his sun martial soul and spirit ring, turned and strode away. Wait, seeing Xu Hen about to leave, Cayenne Renxu came back to her senses from the shock and hurriedly stepped forward to give chase. The reality rate of Yuan Kai is not enough yet. Now is not the time to meet Cayenne Renxu. Xu Hen thought to himself. His footsteps not only didn't stop, but instead he sped up. Swish, swish, his figure moved like Gui Mei, and in the blink of an eye he had completely disappeared. Failing to call out to the other party, Cayenne Renxu was very annoyed. Her face was full of regret, and from time to time she revealed a hint of excitement. It's him, it must be him. He is also here in Heaven Du City, Yuan Kai, Cayenne Renxu thought to herself. Chapter 31, Xu Hen, Cousin, I am Xu King. Cayenne Renxu watched the direction in which Xu Hen had departed, her face full of annoyance, yet also somewhat excited. He was in Heaven Du City. He was actually in Heaven Du City. Although she had not fully remembered everything yet, over these past few days, fragments of past memories had indeed surfaced in her mind regarding herself and Yuan Kai. She truly knew him. Back then they had watched spirit battles together in Spirit City, eaten pastries together, studied the art of tea together, and read books together. He really was her playmate and perhaps even. Thinking back to the sky screen, the way he had looked at her the moment he first saw her, a blush could not help but appear on Cayenne Renxu's face. Combined with her previous annoyance and excitement, her expression looked extremely complex. "Your Highness, Crown Prince." At this moment, a guard stepped forward and reminded her that Prince Yu Tian is still alive. What should we do? Hearing this, Cayenne Renxu returned to her senses. That was right, she was currently Zhu King, not Cayenne Renxu. That was why Yuan Kai had not stopped earlier, because he had not recognized her. "Forget it, as long as he is in Heaven Du City, we will definitely be able to meet again," Cayenne Renxu told herself in her heart. Immediately, she took a deep breath, quickly adjusted her state of mind, and suppressed all the complex emotions on her face. By the time she turned back around, she had reverted to that gentle and refined crown prince. The person just now should be Yuan Kai, who appeared on the sky screen. He possesses innate 20th level spirit power, has a very mysterious background, and is an existence that even the previous Supreme Pontiff had to treat with respect. His arrival in Heaven Du City is no small matter. Report this to His Majesty immediately, he instructed the guard. "Yes, Your Highness." "As for Prince Yu Tian, you few take him and follow me." Cayenne Renxu glanced at Prince Yu Tian, who was still dazed and only knew how to shed tears, and said to the remaining guards, "Yes." Subsequently, they acted separately. One person returned to report the situation here to Emperor Zhu Yi, while the rest, led by Cayenne Renxu, headed toward the hotel where Zhu Hen was staying. The onlookers, seeing this formation, were all extremely nervous and did not dare to make a single sound. Terrifying, simply too terrifying. They had actually just seen that super mysterious existence who had appeared on the sky screen, the big shot whom even the Spirit Hall Supreme Pontiff had to be respectful toward, Yuan Kai. The Sun Martial Soul, it was truly terrifying to this extent. However, why did Lord Yuan Kai only have one spirit ring, and 100,000-year one at that? They could not figure it out. Of course, it was normal not to understand. This lord possessed innate full spirit power of the 20th level, and the sky screen also showed him participating in some sun god trial. For someone related to gods, his spirit ring configuration being different from the understanding of ordinary people like them was perfectly normal. In a dark corner not far away. "Fengzhai, what should we do?" Zhu Hen didn't come, but instead, a potentially even more formidable guy appeared, and he even killed Ning Pianpian. Now that Zhu Hen cannot take revenge with his own hands, once he finds out that his enemy is already dead, will he feel unsatisfied and continue to come and cause trouble for our 7 treasure glazed tile school? Chen Xin asked Ning Fengzhai with some worry. It was not just Chen Xin, Ning Fengzhai also had this worry. If Zhu Hen could have killed his enemy with his own hands, they, the 7 treasure glazed tile school, would have turned a blind eye afterward, not sought trouble with him, and certainly not avenged Ning Pianpian. In that case, their grievance would likely have been settled. But now that Ning Pianpian was dead, leaving not even a corpse behind, how was Zhu Hen supposed to take revenge? If he could not swallow his past resentment, and considering he could no longer retaliate against Ning Pianpian, decided to retaliate against her family, which was his 7 treasure glazed tile school, then the consequences would be unimaginable. Facing a super Douluo who was likely at level 98, even if Uncle Sword and Uncle Bone joined forces, combined with his support, their chances of winning would at most be 50%. Not to mention that the opponent possessed twin spirits and had so many spirit bones on him. Calculating it this way, they simply could not win. He couldn't possibly use a human sea tactic, having the 3 of them entangle the opponent first, and then letting thousands of disciples swarm them, relying on numbers to exhaust the opponent to death, right? If they did that, even if they successfully killed the opponent, the 7 treasure glazed tile school would likely be crippled. Thinking about this, Ning Fengzhai was silent for a while, then said with some helplessness, "Things have reached this point, and there is no other way. King coming here must be under the orders of Emperor Zhu Yi to seize Zhu Hen. He had people detain Prince Yu Tian, likely wanting to hand him over to Zhu Hen for disposal. Let's see if Zhu Hen can appease his anger after killing Prince Yu Tian. If not, we can only react accordingly." Saying this, Ning Fengzhai let out a heavy sigh. Whether it was him or Chen Xin, both tacitly avoided mentioning one question. That was why they did not stand out earlier to stop Yuan Kai and save Ning Pianpian. After all, that was a discarded pawn they had intended to leave for Zhu Hen to kill. In the hotel room, Zhu Hen, who had quietly returned here, had a burst of light appear on his body. Immediately after, his appearance and aura changed rapidly. He quickly changed from Yuan Kai back to the appearance of Zhu Hen. Name Zhu Hen. Age 21. Spirit power level 97. Spirit Imperial Power Sword / Emerald Swan. Spirit Ring Configuration: yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black, 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 red, red / red, red, red. Fused Character: Super Douluo Zhu Hen. Authenticity Rate: 99.21%. Fusionable Character: Sun God Descendant Yuan Kai. Authenticity Rate: 47.29%. Standing before the mirror, looking at his changes within, even his attire had reverted to his original pure white martial outfit. Zhu Hen nodded with satisfaction. He released his mental force to perceive his surroundings. Sure enough, he discovered a group of people approaching him. One was Prince Zhu Tian, and the other aura was that young man in golden red, ornate robes he had encountered earlier. The Heaven Dew Crown Prince, Zhu Qinghe. Or rather, the Spirit Hall Young Lord, Caiyan Renxu. HMPH, Zhu Hen gave a light snort, walked to the table and sat down, poured himself a cup of tea and waited patiently. Not long after, a knock sounded at the door. Zhu Hen glanced at the room door. With an invisible fluctuation of spirit power, the latch opened automatically. Enter, Zhu Hen said indifferently, then took a sip of tea. Hearing the voice from inside, Caiyan Renxu, who had already adjusted her mindset and returned to the role of Zhu Qinghe, gently pushed open the door. She did not enter immediately but stood outside the door and looked in. When she saw that figure in white sitting at the table drinking tea, her pupils constricted slightly. It was truly him, exactly the same as on the sky screen. Zhu Hen. Caiyan Renxu's breathing became a bit heavier at this moment, and then a look of friendliness appeared on her face. Simultaneously, she appropriately displayed a sense of closeness and said politely to Zhu Hen, "Cousin Zhu Hen, I am Zhu Qinghe, your cousin. I heard from His Majesty that you were staying here, so I came specifically to visit." Zhu Qinghe. Zhu Hen murmured the name once, then turned his head to look outside the door. "So it is the Crown Prince. Your Highness has recognized the wrong person. There is no cousin of yours here, Prince Zhu Tian." Zhu Hen was halfway through his sentence when, upon seeing Prince Zhu Tian being detained behind Caiyan Renxu, the expression on his face changed abruptly. Chapter 32: Killing Prince Zhu Tian, Caiyan Renxu's Little Trick. Prince Zhu Tian. Zhu Hen intentionally revealed a surprised expression, and immediately after, he rose from his chair, a faint killing intent radiating from his body. "You're actually here," Zhu Hen said coldly. Woo woo woo. Having had his tongue cut out, Prince Zhu Tian was scared to death upon seeing Zhu Hen. He struggled incessantly, wanting to escape, but unfortunately, he was firmly held by the guards of the Crown Prince's residence and could not break free at all. Whoosh! Zhu Hen flashed instantly, his figure vanishing from the spot like Gui Mei, rushing towards the outside of the door. Caiyan Renxu's pupils constricted, and she hurriedly dodged to the side. Next, she discovered that there was another person beside her, a person who had extended an arm and was gripping Prince Zhu Tian's neck tightly. Such fast speed, he's this fast even without activating his spirit. Caiyan Renxu felt shocked by this, but immediately a smile appeared on her face as she said to Zhu Hen, "It's quite a coincidence. On my way here to see you, royal brother, I happened to run into Prince Zhu Tian. He had been tied up by someone unknown and his tongue had been cut out. I thought to myself, since he and you, royal brother, are biological brothers, I simply brought him along to hand him over to you, royal brother Zhu Hen, to deal with." When she said the word "deal with," Caiyan Renxu lowered her head slightly and used the corner of her eye to secretly observe Zhu Hen's facial expression, discovering that his originally calm complexion had become very, very cold. As if he hadn't heard Caiyan Renxu's words at all, Zhu Hen gripped Prince Zhu Tian's neck. Watching him, whose face was flushed red from being gripped and who couldn't breathe at all, he said coldly to him, "Didn't expect this, did you? That poor wretch who was driven out of the palace by you and your mother back then would return, and would grip you like he was gripping an ant. You had your tongue cut out by someone. Was it because your foul mouth said something disgusting again? Hess, someone actually beat me to what I wanted to do. It really is a pity. Where is your mother? Did you separate when you fled? Hearing Zhu Hen mention his mother, Prince Zhu Tian, who couldn't breathe, felt even more pain in his heart. Mother consort, mother consort. Royal brother, royal uncle's concubine was with Prince Zhu Tian just now, but Qian Rengxu raised her head and recounted what had happened in that small alley earlier. After listening, Zhu Hen's brows furrowed tightly, and he muttered, "Killed by someone suspected to be Yuan Kai, not even a corpse left." After a moment of silence, looking at Prince Zhu Tian, who was almost out of breath from being gripped by him, Zhu Hen snorted coldly and released him. Then, without waiting for him to catch his breath, he immediately struck out with another palm, landing it directly on his chest. But in an instant, Prince Zhu Tian's internal organs were all shattered. He spat out a large mouthful of blood, and then, with his eyes wide open, his body slowly fell forward. With a thud, he fell to the ground. Considering your mother just died, and you have already experienced the pain of losing a mother, I will give you a quick end, Zhu Hen said indifferently. Then he closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and reopened them before turning around and walking back into the room. Qian Rengxu took in this entire scene. Looking at Prince Zhu Tian's corpse lying on the ground, she waved her hand and instructed her subordinates, "Take him away, and have someone come up to clean, wipe away the bloodstains." "Yes, Your Highness." After the subordinates began to carry out the order, Qian Rengxu looked back into the room and smiled at Zhu Hen. "Royal brother, may I come in?" "The person I just killed was Your Highness's royal brother, but as for me, my surname is not Zhu, I am called Jian Hen," Zhu Hen said coldly. Qian Rengxu shook her head. "Royal brother is mistaken. You are called Zhu Hen, and everyone on the entire continent knows that you are Zhu Hen." As she spoke, Qian Rengxu took a food box from one of the guards who had remained, carried it directly into the room, and upon entering, she specifically closed the door so that those outside could not hear what they were about to discuss. Next, she placed the food box on the table in front of Zhu Hen, opened it, and said to him, "I heard that you loved sweets when you were a child, royal brother, so I specifically had the chefs in the residence make some desserts from the Balak kingdom. Would you like to try them, royal brother?" Hearing Qian Rengxu's words and looking at the snacks in the food box before him, Zhu Hen shifted his gaze to her as she stood to the side and mocked, "Who I am is only for me to decide. What others think has nothing to do with me. Is Your Highness here to do the same as His Majesty the Emperor, to persuade me to stay and assist you, to be your hired thug?" "Royal brother jokes, we are flesh and blood. If we are talking about that, the person I just killed was my own flesh and blood too." Qian Rengxu. "Does the Crown Prince still think that the term flesh and blood is very precious to me?" Zhu Hen said indifferently to Qian Rengxu. Qian Rengxu frowned, but she chuckled inwardly. This Zhu Hen was even harder to win over than she had imagined. That old thing Emperor Zhu Yi even boasted that it was a sure thing. It was truly nonsense. This is also fine. The more he rejects the Heaven-Do imperial family in his heart, the less he will work for them, which is all the more advantageous for their spirit hall. However, her current public identity is the Crown Prince of the Heaven-Do Empire, so she still needs to try a bit more. Thinking of this, Qian Rengxu took a deep breath, stepped back 2 paces, and then bowed to Zhu Hen. "What are you doing?" Zhu Hen asked. "I am apologizing to you, royal brother, on behalf of royal uncle Kundera, on behalf of the Emperor, and on behalf of the entire Heaven-Do imperial family." Qian Rengxu said sincerely, "I know that you are angry, royal brother. Back then, when royal uncle favored his concubine over his wife and deposed the legitimate heir to establish a secondary one, not a single person in the entire Heaven-Do imperial family stood up to speak for you and your mother. Although the emperor said he was deceived by royal uncle, I know that such an excuse cannot deceive you, royal brother." That's right, regarding royal uncle's act of favoring his concubine over his wife, the emperor was not deceived, he knew everything. But he still agreed to royal uncle's actions, all to win over the 7 treasure glazed tile school. Spirit Hall's power was great, and the Star Luo Empire's national strength was above our Heaven-Do Empire. At that time, I had not yet apprenticed under Schoolmaster Enning, while royal uncle had, by chance, become acquainted with his cousin and taken her as a concubine. Royal uncle's act of doting on consort Ning could bring the Heaven-Do imperial family and the 7 treasure glazed tile school closer. In fact, the reason I later apprenticed under Schoolmaster Ning was partly due to Consort Enning's introduction. I know you are aware of all this, royal brother. Zhu Hen. The Emperor learned through the sky screen that you are still alive, royal brother, and even more so, he learned of your current strength. That is why he wants to persuade you to return to the family, to return to the imperial family, to strengthen the imperial family's power. Such behavior makes you look down on us, royal brother. Actually, I am also very disgusted by it deep down, but the pressure on the imperial family is truly great right now. So, royal brother, can you, for the sake of our ancestors' hard work in founding the nation, temporarily set aside the past, stay and help the emperor, help the family? If you are unwilling, I can also understand, and in the future, I will not dare to force you again. As she spoke, Qian Renxiu assumed a powerless appearance, while inwardly laughing. If I say this, will you still assist Zhu Yi? Heh. Chapter 33. Qian Renxiu, feeling the threat of death, was shocked. Zhu Hen was truly shocked. This guy, is he here to lobby for Emperor Zhu Yi, or is he here to undermine him? You've spoken to such an extent. If Emperor Zhu Yi has wronged me so much, is so snobbish and so shameless, and I still agree to stay in Heaven Du City to help him, wouldn't I be too lowly? Zhu Hen's eyelids couldn't help but twitch slightly. However, thinking of the true identity of the person before him, he suddenly understood. Indeed, doing this was most advantageous to her. Otherwise, if he really agreed to stay in Heaven Du City to assist Emperor Zhu Yi, it would be a major hidden danger for Spirit Hall. Not to mention anything else, the chronic poison she gave Emperor Zhu Yi might be cured by him. After all, the healing power of the Emerald Swan's spirit was terrifyingly powerful. Furthermore, her words mentioned that Emperor Zhu Yi and Kundera were both trying to win over the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. This was sowing discord, trying to incite hostility in him toward the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. Enning Pian was a disciple of the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, and he had caused a scene there not long ago. Since she said this now, if his heart were filled with hatred for the past, he would definitely go and cause trouble for the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School again. Borrowing a knife to kill, when the snipe and the clam fight, the fisherman profits. This woman had a good plan. She was worthy of being Ning Fengzhai's disciple. Royal brother, still maintaining the bowing posture, seeing that he hadn't replied after she had said so much, Qian Renxiu waited a while longer, then finally couldn't help but raise her head slightly to look at him. With this look, her pupils immediately constricted violently. At the same time, her whole body tensed up, and a layer of dense sweat appeared on her forehead. Royal brother, what is the meaning of this? Qian Renxiu asked with a trembling voice. Directly in front of her line of sight, just 10 centimeters from her eyes, a sharp sword tip was aimed right at her. The chill on the sword made her skin crawl. This man. Since ancient times, the imperial family has been heartless. This saying is indeed correct. Your Highness the Crown Prince, you used the guise of apologizing for the Emperor, but in reality, you were speaking ill of the Emperor. Did you think I couldn't tell? Zhu Hen said coldly. Oh no, he heard it, Qian Renxiu thought to herself. She had only brought some guards from the Crown Prince's residence this time. As for Porcupine Fish Douluo and Snake Lance Douluo, she was worried that Zhu Hen would discover their presence, so she only let them follow from afar and not get close. If Zhu Hen attacked her now, the two of them wouldn't be able to rescue her in time, and, even if they were here, could they stop this guy? A level 98 Super Douluo, 21 years old, this guy was simply a monster. Royal brother, you listen to my explanation. You are doing this because you think your father's position is too stable, and you want to cause him some trouble trying to shake it, so you can find an opportunity to ascend to the throne early, Zhu Hen continued, not waiting for her to finish speaking. I heard that the second prince was more favored by the emperor than you back then and was the best candidate for crown prince, but he unfortunately died due to an accident. Then, the third prince also died. Among the remaining 2 princes, the 4th Prince Yu Beng is a debauched and incompetent wastrel, so Emperor Zhu Yi had no choice but to appoint you as crown prince. Zhu Hen looked at the bowing Qian Renxiu and asked, those 2 princes, they couldn't have been killed by you, could they, for the sake of the position of heir? No, how could I do such a thing? They were my own siblings. Not only her forehead, but Qian Renxiu's back was now also covered in cold sweat. She put on a very forced expression and denied it to Zhu Hen. HMPH siblings. In the cold and heartless imperial family, where is there any brotherly affection? Zhu Hen said with disdain. After looking at her for a while longer, Zhu Hen put away his sword and shouted coldly at her, "Get lost. For the sake of these snacks, I will spare you this once. Don't appear in front of me again. If you dare to play tricks on me again, I will have you die on the spot." Gulp tilde, Cayenne Renxu couldn't help but swallow her saliva. This situation was completely beyond her expectations. She wanted to sow discord between Zhu Hen and Emperor Zhu Yi, and even the 7 treasure glazed tile school, but she didn't intend for Zhu Hen to guess that she was playing tricks, let alone guess that the deaths of those 2 princes were related to her through this Ismail matter. Cayenne Renxu was very annoyed. After hearing Zhu Hen's words, she quickly took a few steps back, stood up, and then turned and fled the guest room. "Your Highness," the guards outside the door saw the crown prince running out in such a panic and were all puzzled. What was going on? Did the talk not go well? "Go, let's go," Cayenne Renxu said anxiously. And without waiting for their response, she ran straight downstairs. Seeing this, the guards looked at each other, then followed closely behind, leaving with Cayenne Renxu. Sensing that they had already left the inn, Zhu Hen got up from his chair and walked to the door to open it. "Hess, the bloodstain hasn't been cleaned up yet. Whatever, let the hotel staff clean it up." Immediately, Zhu Hen closed the door and bolted it. After this incident, it wouldn't be appropriate to accept Emperor Zhu Yi's recruitment and stay here to assist him. But if I don't accept the royal family's recruitment, how can I let the character, Super Douluo Zhu Hen, fully step onto the main stage? This Cayenne Renxu, she really knows how to mess things up for me. Wait, mess things up. Suddenly thinking of something, his eyes narrowed slightly. "I've got it. It can be done like this, and I can even give her a little payback." Go hurry back to the crown prince's residence. On the streets of Heaven Du, Cayenne Renxu led her people and rushed toward her residence. She had to stay away from that Zhu Hen now. He was too dangerous. She didn't want to see him taken under Emperor Zhu Yi's command, so she said some words to sow discord, but he guessed that she wanted to shake Emperor Zhu Yi's position and strive to ascend the throne early, and that she was the real culprit who killed the 2 princes. The former guess was certainly wrong, but the latter guess couldn't be more true. He also said that if she dared to play tricks on him next time, he would kill her. Kill her. The threat of death, this was the first time, oh no, the second time she had felt the threat of death. The first time was on the sky screen, when that crazy woman Bibaidong was somehow influenced by the Rakshasa god and attacked her. King Ha, just as she was feeling lingering fear, suddenly, a shout rang out again. Cayenne Renxu, still having lingering fears, couldn't help but exclaim, then covered her chest and realized what was happening. It wasn't Zhu Hen chasing after her, the shout just now was somewhat familiar. Stopping her steps and looking in the direction of the sound, she saw 2 figures walking toward her with big strides, Ning Fengzhai and Chen Xin. "Teacher, your excellency saw Douluo." Cayenne Renxu's face revealed a look of surprise. "King Ha, why are you so jumpy? You went to see Zhu Hen just now, right?" Boom! Before Ning Fengzhai could finish speaking, a loud noise came from the sky, and his expression, along with that of everyone around him, changed instantly as they all looked up. This was the commotion of the sky screen appearing again. Chapter 34, Spirit Hall annihilates the 7 treasure glazed tile school. A loud noise echoed across the entire Heaven Du city, and even the entire continent. Immediately after, just like the previous 2 times, a gale blew and thunder rumbled. Then, as the heavens and earth returned to calm, a sky screen slowly unfolded. Ning Fengzhai had originally intended to ask his disciple how his conversation with Zhu Hen went, whether Zhu Hen had personally killed Zhu Tian, whether he felt regret after learning that Ning Pianpian was already dead, and he could no longer take revenge with his own hands, and then intended to implicate their 7 treasure glazed tile school. But now that the sky screen had appeared again, and he did not know what secrets on the continent would be exposed, since it was right before his eyes, he could only deal with the matter at hand first, watch the sky screen, and then go ask him. Cayenne Renxu thought to herself that since Ning Fengzhai and Chen Xin were here, she was at least nominally Ning Fengzhai's disciple, and he was counting on her to ascend to the throne in the future so that he could become the imperial preceptor, so he would certainly protect her. This increased her sense of security somewhat. After thinking about it, she decided to stay here and finish watching the content on the sky screen before returning to the Crown Prince's residence. Heaven Du Imperial Palace. Star Luo Imperial Palace. Spirit Hall. Shrek Academy. Everyone in other places also walked out of their rooms and looked up at the sky screen. Thick clouds appeared first, and then the clouds slowly dispersed, revealing a palace complex situated on the ground. It was none other than the Heaven Du Imperial Palace. Is this exposure related to the Heaven Du Imperial family again? Seeing this scene, Ning Fengzhai thought to himself. Then the next second, his expression changed drastically, and he nearly couldn't stand steadily. Report, Your Majesty, the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School was attacked by over 10,000 masked spirit masters last night. All the disciples in the sect were killed. Bone Douluo died in battle, and Sword Douluo lost an arm. After forcing a breakout with Schoolmaster Enning, the two of them have disappeared without a trace. What something happened to the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School? Looking slightly older than he did now, on the sky screen, Emperor Zhu Yi, who was discussing matters with his close ministers, was shocked upon hearing the report from the scout who had run in from outside the hall. Over 10,000 spirit masters. Who else on this continent could mobilize over 10,000 spirit masters besides Spirit Hall? Prince Yuzing was also stunned, he muttered. Spirit Hall still couldn't hold back and made a move after all. Schoolmaster Ning already offended Spirit Hall by shielding that 100,000-year spirit beast during the last Continental Advanced Spirit Master Academy Elite Tournament, and later repeatedly went against the Supreme Pontiff. I was worried back then. I didn't expect this to actually happen. The ministers discussed among themselves. Father, I request to lead the army to search the area around the 7 Treasure Mountains to find the whereabouts of my teacher and Sword Douluo. Crown Prince Zhu King, who also looked more mature than he did now, stepped out and requested of Emperor Zhu Yi. Go quickly. Emperor Zhu Yi's heart was in chaos. He didn't have time to think too much and waved his hand repeatedly to agree. Then the scene changed. Zhu King rode on horseback, leading the army to search near the 7 Treasure Mountains. After some searching, he actually found Chen Xin and Ning Fengzhai hiding in a tree hollow. On the sky screen, Chen Xin had lost his left arm, his face was pale, and his body was covered in blood. As for Ning Fengzhai, although he had Chen Xin's protection and was not missing any limbs, he was also exhausted, his lips cracked. Teacher Senior Sword Douluo. Having found the two, a happy smile appeared on Zhu King's face. However, at this moment, an androgynous voice came from a tree trunk nearby. Crown Prince, thank you for helping us find them. Then another voice came from there as well. Yes, if not for you mobilizing the Heaven Du army, it would have really taken us some effort to find them. The scene zoomed in, and 2 figures standing side by side appeared before everyone's eyes. They saw one wearing golden battle armor, clearly a man, yet heavily made up, the other wearing black battle armor, with eerie patterns painted on his face. Chrysanthemum Douluo, Ghost Douluo. Looking at these two, Zhu King's expression instantly turned ugly, and he spoke their names word by word. As for Chen Xin and Ning Fengzhai, they were filled with monstrous hatred and despair. All right, let everything end, Chrysanthemum Douluo said. Subsequently, he and Ghost Douluo activated their spirits together and rushed toward Ning Fengzhai and Chen Xin. The scene changed. A towering and ancient city appeared, and then it zoomed into one of the halls, named Supreme Pontiff Palace. You have returned. Inside the hall, a graceful figure sitting on the Supreme Pontiff throne asked indifferently. Chrysanthemum Douluo and Ghost Douluo stood below, bowing their heads as they replied, Yes, Your Excellency Supreme Pontiff, we have not failed our mission. We have successfully killed the fleeing Ning Fengzhai and Chen Xin. Was it that wicked obstacle's idea? Bibaidong asked. Yes, this time the annihilation of the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School and the pursuit of Ning Fengzhai and Chen Xin were all thanks to the young lord's planning, Chrysanthemum Douluo replied. HMPH, Bibaidong snorted coldly and didn't say anything else, then immediately asked about another matter. How are things over at the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect? This, because Zhu Hen received an invitation from Yu Yuanzhen and is currently a guest at the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect. We haven't found an opportunity to act yet. After he leaves, the over 10,000 spirit masters ambushed nearby will immediately swarm in, and, just like we annihilated the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, eliminate the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon sect as well, Chrysanthemum Douluo said. Zhu Hen, hearing this name, Bibaidong frowned slightly, a grave expression appearing on her face. 3 years ago, at the Continental Advanced Spirit Master Academy Elite Tournament, he took action to snatch that soft bones rabbit from me. At that time, with me, you two, plus Demon Bear and Ghost Leopard, the 5 of us combined could only barely withstand his 8th spirit ability. I knew then that he would be our great enemy. Your Excellency, actually, it's okay. After all, Zhu Hen lived in the Jisai orphanage established by our spirit hall during his childhood, and it was a spirit master from our spirit hall who performed his awakening. Over these years, apart from the time he snatched the spirit beast from you, he hasn't gone against us. He shouldn't become our enemy, Chrysanthemum Douluo said with a fawning smile. Hearing this on the throne, Bibaidong's expression instantly turned cold. Yue Guan, are you intentionally speaking for him, because Zhu Hen once gave you an immortal herb that looks just like your spirit? I've been wronged, Your Excellency. There is absolutely no such thing. Furthermore, that Kaing Tongshan Chrysanthemum immortal herb wasn't given to me by Zhu Hen. It was my reward for agreeing with Old Ghost to help him hunt the deep-sea demon whale king, Chrysanthemum Douluo hurriedly explained. Yes, Your Excellency, that was payment. Ghost Douluo also helped speak for his old partner. HMPH, as dignified elders of Spirit Hall, you make deals with the enemy and help the enemy hunt spirit beasts. Do you still have Spirit Hall in your eyes? Bibaidong scolded, her powerful pressure instantly sweeping through the hall. Feeling this pressure, Yu Guan and Gui Mei showed a hint of discomfort on their faces. Oh my god, Spirit Hall actually annihilates the 7 treasure glazed tile school in the future. That's not all, did you hear? They are going to annihilate the Blue Lightning Tyrant Dragon Sect too. Schoolmaster Ning and Sword Douluo were set up by the Crown Prince. Who's to say they weren't? If the Crown Prince hadn't gone to find them, perhaps they would have escaped the pursuit. Kai and Rengxu. Chapter 35, Supreme Pontiff Bibaidong assassinates Snake Lance Douluo, Porcupinefish Douluo. King heard this, what did the sky screen just say? My 7 treasure glazed tile school. Ning Fengzhai could finally no longer hold on. After finishing this half sentence with Kai and Rengxu, his legs went weak, and he collapsed directly onto the ground. Teacher, Fengzhai. Kai and Rengxu and Chen Xin hurriedly bent down to support him. The 7 treasure glazed tile school. All the disciples were killed, Uncle Gu, and even I and Uncle Sword were also. Heavens, will the future really turn out like this? Ning Fengzhai shouted in somewhat of a breakdown. He had always presented himself with a calm and dignified demeanor, but this time, his mindset had truly been heavily struck. His 7 treasure glazed tile school would be destroyed by Spirit Hall in the future, and he would also be killed by Chrysanthemum Douluo and Ghost Douluo. How could he accept this? On the side, Sword Douluo also had a heavy expression, his heart filled with mixed emotions. Damn Spirit Hall and the treacherous. Chen Xin glanced at Kai and Rengxu, but in the end, he did not say those words out loud. Actually, on the sky screen, the Crown Prince was also out of good intentions looking for himself and Fengzhai. He also did not expect that Spirit Hall would follow behind him, using the Emperor's manpower to search for the whereabouts of the 2 of them. Chen Xin was still reasonable, knowing how to explain it for Kai and Rengxu in his heart. But Kai and Rengxu did not think so. This time, the annihilation of the 7 treasure glazed tile school and the pursuit of Ning Fengzhai and Chen Xin are all thanks to the young lord's planning. This was what Chrysanthemum Douluo said to Supreme Pontiff Bibaidong on the sky screen. What did this mean? It meant that she had done it on purpose, intentionally leading the Heaven Du Empire's army to search the mountains, just to help the 2 of them, assisting them in finding Ning Fengzhai and Chen Xin. The reason why she had shown an ugly expression on the sky screen after Chrysanthemum Douluo and Ghost Douluo appeared was also a disguise, because at that time she had appeared as Zhu King leading the Heaven Du Empire's army, but behind that disguise, her heart at that time must have been laughing. Laughing that the 7 treasure glazed tile school was about to completely disappear, laughing that Spirit Hall would have one less opponent from now on. Therefore awkward. It was somewhat awkward, watching the sky screen here with the teacher, who would be ruined and killed by her in the future. How to put it, she felt a little guilty. The 2 of them worked together to help Ning Fengzhai up. After getting up, Ning Fengzhai first looked at his treacherous disciple with a complex gaze, then his eyes brimmed with monstrous hatred, and he gritted his teeth, saying, Spirit Hall, I will never rest until you are destroyed. The hatred was real, and the words were from the bottom of his heart, but Ning Fengzhai was truly a bit scared at this moment. If he were to really go against Spirit Hall now, he would truly have to think twice. At this moment, the sky screen continued to play. Inside the Supreme Pontiff Palace. Your Holiness the Supreme Pontiff, we are wronged. We originally agreed to help Xu Hen hunt spirit beasts. That was also getting what each needed. There was absolutely no intention to betray Spirit Hall. Chrysanthemum Douluo and Ghost Douluo, under the pressure of Supreme Pontiff Bibi Dong, continued to cry out their grievances to her. HMPH Supreme Pontiff Bibi Dong snorted coldly. Considering that she was currently in a time of needing people, she decided to just give them a slight warning and let it go, not continuing to make things difficult for them. She withdrew her pressure and said to the two, "For the sake of your past contributions, this time will be recorded for now. If there is a next time, I will definitely not be lenient." "Yes, thank you, Your Holiness the Supreme Pontiff." The two hurriedly thanked her. Then the scene changed, and Chrysanthemum Douluo and Ghost Douluo walked together on the streets of Spirit City. "Old Ghost, do you think that stinky woman Supreme Pontiff Bibi Dong is meddling too much? The High Priest has already said not to make an enemy of Xu Hen, but she keeps saying that he is an enemy and insists on finding trouble with him. We accepted his things and helped him hunt spirits. This is just a transaction, yet we still get scolded by her and covered by her pressure. Does she want me to give up the Kaing Tongshan Chrysanthemum Immortal Herb? What a joke." Chrysanthemum Douluo complained to Ghost Douluo while rubbing his shoulder. "Yes, that Ghost Shadow Ganodama also has great benefits for me. Xu Hen offered this price to ask us to act. We have no reason to refuse." "Right, we also took the benefits, and we did not betray the interests of Spirit Hall, yet she is there criticizing and even scolding us. It is truly unreasonable. If she cares so much about Spirit Hall, why did she assassinate Sai Zhu and Snake Spear Douluo who were protecting the young lord back then, making Spirit Hall lose two titled Douluo combatants for no reason?" Chrysanthemum Douluo said with dissatisfaction and disdain. Hearing this, Ghost Douluo was shocked, hurriedly covering Chrysanthemum Douluo's mouth, then looking left and right, and seeing that the people around were quite far away, he let out a sigh of relief. Then he warned Chrysanthemum Douluo, "Such words cannot be said carelessly. What if it reaches the young lord's ears, do you know?" "I know I won't say it carelessly. I just can't stand that Supreme Pontiff Bibi Dong herself can do things that harm the interests of Spirit Hall to consolidate her own power, but we can't help others hunt spirit beasts for an immortal herb. Double standard, such a double standard." Chrysanthemum Douluo complained angrily like a child. Sai Guimei shook his head helplessly. "What?" Under the sky screen, Kayan Renxu widened her eyes, her original awkwardness instantly turning into shock. Immediately after, her hands clenched into fists. "Uncle Sai Zhu and Uncle Snake Spear Douluo in the future will be, by that woman." On the side, Ning Fengzhai laughed out loud, his expression somewhat manic. "So Spirit Hall is also killing each other internally. This is truly ironic. HMPH, dogs biting dogs. Chen Xin snorted coldly and also spoke up. Neither of them paid attention to Kayan Renxu's loss of composure, only thinking that she was shocked by the fact that Spirit Hall was not united enough internally, and that the Supreme Pontiff would even assassinate two of her own, titled Douluo. To be honest, they were also quite shocked. Immediately, they thought of a rumor that had been spreading rapidly over the past few days. The former Supreme Pontiff of Spirit Hall, Kayan Zunji, was not killed by the Clear Sky Douluo, but died at the hands of his beloved disciple, the current Supreme Pontiff Bibi Dong. Regarding the death of Kayan Zunji, the sky screen had previously played scenes related to it. Although there were not many, Supreme Pontiff Bibi Dong was indeed suspicious. And then, the young lord in the mouths of Chrysanthemum Douluo and Ghost Douluo should be that Kayan Renxu, right? In order to consolidate her power, Supreme Pontiff Bibi Dong assassinated the two titled Douluo protecting Kayan Renxu. This was to clip Kayan Renxu's wings, fearing that she would snatch back the position of Supreme Pontiff from her hands in the future. Supreme Pontiff Bibi Dong treated her teacher's child this way. Perhaps Kayan Zunji really was. They did not yet know that Kayan Renxu was also Supreme Pontiff Bibi Dong's daughter. Not far away, on a hidden rooftop. "Sai Zhu, did you hear that? In the future, we will die at the hands of that woman Supreme Pontiff Bibi Dong." Snake Lance Douluo's face was extremely ugly as he said this to the Porcupinefish Douluo beside him. Porcupinefish Douluo looked at the sky screen, saying nothing, only nodding and humming in agreement, but through his clenched fists, one could see that his heart was very unsettled at this moment. Chapter 36, The Truth Exposed, Kayan Zunji was killed by Bibi Dong. Bibi Dong had ascended to the position of Supreme Pontiff, but not everyone in Spirit Hall obeyed her. The offering hall went without saying, and even in the Elder Palace, Snake Lance Douluo and Porcupinefish Douluo did not view her as the supreme pontiff. In their hearts, the masters of Spirit Hall were only the Kyan family. They listened to Kyan Dalu, they listened to Kyan Zunji, they listened to Kyan Renxu, but Bibaidong. Sorry, unless the Kyan family tells us to help you, we wouldn't listen to your orders. That bitch Bibaidong, she sees that we only listen to the high priest and the young lord, not her, this so-called supreme pontiff, so she plans to kill us in the future to weaken the young lord's influence. Now that I know, I will never let her succeed. Snake Lance Douluo gritted his teeth, his body radiating a murderous aura. He wanted to kill Bibaidong and clear the threat for the young lord. Contain your aura, don't let Chenzin discover you. Seeing his old partner so angry that he even released his killing intent, the previously silent Porcupinefish Douluo quickly reminded him. Hearing this, Snake Lance Douluo also reacted, closing his eyes and hurriedly pulling back his killing intent. After he calmed his aura and opened his eyes again, he whispered to Porcupinefish Douluo, "See eyes you, what are your plans? We cannot just sit here and wait for death. Bibaidong's strength is very high. Even if we join forces, it's impossible to defeat her. Let's wait until we return to the Crown Prince's residence to hear what the young lord has to say," Porcupinefish Douluo replied. Snake Lance Douluo nodded with some reluctance. He wanted to kill Bibaidong, this wasn't just talk, but he truly couldn't defeat Bibaidong. It seemed they would have to plan this carefully. On the sky screen, the scene continued to play. The silhouettes of Chrysanthemum Douluo and Ghost Douluo gradually elongated under the setting sun, then the sky screen turned black, and immediately after, another scene appeared. In a dark secret room, Bibaidong arrived here holding her scepter, scanning the environment. A grand voice echoed in her mind. "Bibaidong, Spirit Hall raised you, yet you betrayed it for a piece of trash who couldn't even break through to level 30 in his whole life. Your teacher punished you in a filthy way, and for revenge, you killed him and even wanted to kill your own child. Your heart has been completely occupied by hatred. Dark, negative emotions shroud your heart, nourishing your power while twisting your soul. You want to become stronger through depravity to take revenge on this world, but as long as I am here, you will not succeed. Even if you inherit the Rakshasa god position, you will ultimately be no match for my sun god divine force." "Shut up," Bibaidong could no longer endure it and opened her mouth to shout. Boom, boom, boom. A powerful sonic shock swept through the entire secret room, causing it to shake. After the scene calmed down, Bibaidong gripped the scepter in her hand and said coldly to the air in front of her, "You cannot stop me. I am Zua's mother. You dare not kill me, but I dare to kill you. Just wait, when I become a god, I will destroy you along with this world." Saying this, Bibaidong closed her eyes, starting to refine her anger, magnifying her hatred, and drawing upon this negative power to strengthen her own power. The scene slowly changed. Another building appeared. This was a wooden house built on the edge of a cliff. In front of the house, a young man dressed in red clothes was sitting in a chair making tea for himself. The afterglow of the setting sun shone on him, making one feel very warm and peaceful even through the sky screen. The scene zoomed in, revealing the person's appearance. Black short hair, exquisite and handsome facial features, with a mole at the end of his right eye. Yuan Kai. Even though he looked much more mature than the last time the sky screen played, everyone could recognize him at a glance from his outline and features. "Speak, what do you want to ask me?" Yuan Kai said softly. A figure standing not far from his side appeared on the sky screen. The view zoomed in as usual, magnifying his appearance. This was a middle-aged man wearing a black cloak, with a stubbly beard and messy hair. "I wish to ask you about the cause of Kyan Zunji's death. Was he truly severely injured by my clear sky hammer and died of his wounds, or was he killed by Bibaidong?" the middle-aged man asked. "You consorted with a spirit beast, gave birth to a half-beast, and your conduct is despicable. I did not intend to answer your question, but seeing that it was not easy for you to come here and you have endured much for this matter. Fine, I will tell you. The answer is just as you thought. Your ring explosion shock back then was not fatal to Kyan Zunji. The one who truly killed him was the soul-eating spider emperor of Bibaidong." Saying this, Yuan Kai picked up a teacup and took a light sip. Hearing this answer, the middle-aged man staggered a few steps, then tears streamed down his eyes, and he laughed out loud. "Ha ha ha, it is really like this. It is actually like this. What a Bibaidong, what a Bibaidong. You caused my clear sky sect to be forced to seal the mountain, caused my father to be angry at me for disregarding the safety of the sect for our yin, and died in anger, causing me to become someone abandoned by my family. But she is also your benefactor. Without her, how could you avenge your wife's death? Yuan Kai said indifferently. The man's crying and laughter stopped abruptly. Go now, leave this place of mine. Yuan Kai waved his hand at this moment, and a golden light enveloped the middle-aged man. Immediately after, his figure disappeared within it. The scene ended here. A vast, emotionless voice sounded on the sky screen. I am the sky screen. Previously, I revealed the existence of Zhuhen Tang-san and Yuan Kai. Today, I reveal the cause of death of the former Supreme Pontiff of Spirit Hall, Kaian Zunji, and the future destruction of the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. Since the future is known, the future can be changed. Everything is in your own hands. Buzz tilde, the buzzing sound resounded across the continent. Just like the previous 2 times, the sky screen slowly disappeared, and the vault of heaven began to return to its original appearance. On the continent, everyone was stunned. Although many people had this guess before, a guess is just a guess. But what did the sky screen say this time? The former Supreme Pontiff, Kaian Zunji, was killed by the current Supreme Pontiff. This big news. On the streets of Heaven-Du City. Kaian Renxu did not know when she had slumped to the ground, her eyes dull, her body constantly feeling cold. It was her, it really was her, it was she who killed father. Kaian Renxu kept muttering this sentence in her heart. Ha tilde, she was having a breakdown when, suddenly, a burst of laughter sounded nearby. It was Ning Fengzhai. It's not just a secret struggle. This time, a fierce war is going to break out inside Spirit Hall. The matter of Bibaidong killing Kaian Zunji has been confirmed by the sky screen. On the sky screen, Yuan Kai personally confirmed this to the clear sky Douluo. Now everyone knows. Can those Spirit Hall spirit masters loyal to the Kaian family still accept such a supreme pontiff? Bibaidong has been supreme pontiff for 12 years. She must also have her own power in her hands. When the time comes, the 2 sides will fight, and the power of Spirit Hall will surely be greatly consumed. How can they come to deal with our 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School then? Ning Fengzhai said extremely happily. He felt that the future where the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School was destroyed by Spirit Hall had been changed at this moment. Beside him, Sword Douluo nodded in agreement. Chapter 37, Heaven Helps Me Dai Mubai. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to AI Otaku Studio. The fact that Bibaidong murdered the previous Supreme Pontiff, Kaian Zunji, had been exposed by the sky screen. Those Spirit Hall elders loyal to the Kaian family would certainly no longer acknowledge her as Supreme Pontiff, and might even demand she pay with her life for murdering her mentor. Even the rank and file of Spirit Hall would be thrown into panic. The Supreme Pontiff had ascended to power by murdering her master. How could she still be their leader? It was easy to imagine that Spirit Hall was about to fall into great turmoil. Afterwards, Spirit Hall's strength would inevitably decline severely due to this internal strife. How would they be able to deal with the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School then? Ning Fengzhai and Chen Xin were both fantasizing about this. However, they did not know that the young lord of Spirit Hall was right beside them, taking in every word they said. You want to watch Spirit Hall fight among itself so you can remain safe and sound. In your dreams, Kaian Renxu thought resentfully. She took a deep breath, struggling to suppress the complex emotions in her heart, and forced herself with all her might to put on a bright smile. Then standing up, she smiled at Ning Fengzhai and Chen Xin. Just as teacher said, Spirit Hall will certainly be too busy to look after itself for some time. It seems we can all breathe a sigh of relief. Indeed, Ning Fengzhai nodded with a smile. However, thinking of how the sky screen had shown his sect being slaughtered by Spirit Hall, his smile slowly faded. Damn Spirit Hall. No, I have to see if I can kick them while they're down during their upcoming internal strife and weaken them further. By the way, King, you were acting under His Majesty's orders to seize Zhuhen just now, right? I wonder. Ning Fengzhai finally remembered to ask Kaian Renxu about Zhuhen. Because Ning Fengzhai's earlier smug behavior had disgusted her so much, Kaian Renxu put on a helpless expression and replied to his question. My royal brother killed Prince Yutian with his own hands. I also informed him that Consort Ning had been killed. He seems very dissatisfied, and it is possible he will really implicate Consort Ning's family, which is teacher's 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. Teacher, you should prepare early. Ah, hearing this, Ning Fengzhai's already tense expression instantly turned ugly again. This was truly a case of fearing something and having it happen. Great sorrow, great joy, and then great sorrow again. The ups and downs of his mood today were more treacherous than all his past days combined. Chen Xin's brows were tightly locked, and he too was under immense pressure from this news, but he still comforted Ning Fengzhai. Fengzhai, the crown prince only said it was possible, not certain. Don't worry too much. Furthermore, even if that Zhu Hen really comes to cause trouble, if Gu Rong and I join forces, plus the assistance of your 7 treasure glazed tile pagoda, we might not necessarily be unable to defeat him. Uncle Jian, the level 79 Ning Fengzhai turned his head to look at his Uncle Jian, the meaning in his gaze quite clear. Uncle Jian, do we really have the strength to fight him? Chen Xin nodded solemnly. Although he knew his Uncle Jian was comforting him, Ning Fengzhai still felt a bit better. Forget it, let's just take it one step at a time. If that Zhu Hen really comes to take revenge, then their 7 treasure glazed tile school will just have to parry. Meanwhile, on the other side, Shrek Academy. It really was her who killed Qian Zunji. Tang Hao clenched his fists and said in a deep voice. Subsequently, his eyes, which had become turbid from years of drinking, suddenly widened. He let out a loud shout and opened his right hand. A massive iron hammer appeared in his hand. At the same time, 9 spirit rings, yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black, 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 red, emerged from beneath his feet. A powerful aura erupted, shaking the surrounding trees violently, forcing even Tang San, Zyro Wu, and Dai Mubai to retreat repeatedly. Tang Hao gripped the clear sky hammer, swinging it wildly while shouting, "Bibi Dong, you have caused my clear sky sect so much misery. You despicable bitch, I will never let you go." Dad, Tang San raised his right arm to block in front of him, resisting the aura erupting wildly ahead. Looking at Tang Hao's crazed figure, his face was full of worry. "Little San, let your dad vent. After he's done venting and has calmed down, we can discuss together how to deal with Bibi Dong." Dai Mubai patted Tang San's shoulder and said to him. His tone and expression were exactly that of a good older brother who treated Tang San's affairs as his own. "Yeah, thank you, Boss Dai." Hearing Dai Mubai's words, Tang San nodded and thanked him. "We are brothers, we should share blessings and bear hardships together. Your business is my business," Dai Mubai said seriously. At this moment, he already had an idea in his heart: leave here and take Tang Hao and his son back to Douluo City. He hadn't done this before because he was worried it would offend Spirit Hall, as Tang Hao was, after all, a sinner wanted by Spirit Hall for killing the Supreme Pontiff. But the situation was different now. The sky screen had exposed the truth. The clear sky Douluo was innocent, and the previous Supreme Pontiff Qian Zunji was not killed by him at all. Since that was the case, Spirit Hall had no reason to hunt him down anymore. And he, Dai Mubai, could also openly and honestly take Tang Hao and Tang San back to Douluo City to see his father, Emperor Tianfeng. At that time, he could use the excuse of helping them get revenge to win over the father and son, have them stay, and form an alliance with the Douluo imperial family. At the same time, he could tell his imperial father how good his relationship with Tang San was, that Tang Hao was his uncle, how much he valued and supported him, and then, HMPH, how would Dai Weici be able to compete with him then? With the clear sky Douluo taking his side, the position of Crown Prince would surely be his. Actually, he wasn't very interested in the position of Crown Prince, but unfortunately, the Douluo Empire had no princes of the blood. Brothers had to fight to the death, so he, Dai Mubai, had no choice but to seize the position of heir. Dai Mubai, who had originally been scared to death, feeling he had no hope and could only choose to flee to a foreign country, was now filled with fighting spirit to compete with Dai Weici. He looked at Tang Hao, who was still going crazy not far in front of him, and a thick smile flashed in his eyes. The appearance of this sky screen was truly good. It was wonderful, simply heaven helping him, Dai Mubai. Heaven do city in the inn. Daring to obstruct my plans and play tricks on me, this is your reward. Now, go have a good headache trying to figure out how to handle the mess in your spirit hall. Zhu Hen's mouth curled up as he thought to himself. Then he walked to the window and opened it, letting the cold night wind blow in wantonly. His hair fluttered backward in the wind. Zhu Hen looked up at the bright moon that had reappeared after the sky screen vanished and murmured, "On the sky screen, Bibaidong indicated that she views Zhu Hen as an enemy. So having seen this, it is only reasonable for me to do something about it, right? Since it is no longer appropriate to accept the recruitment of the Heaven Du imperial family, I will use this as an opportunity to step to the forefront. First, Zhu Hen shifted his gaze toward a majestic building not far away in the city. The Heaven Du City Spirit Temple. Chapter 38, Bibaidong forced into a coup. Zhu Hen was a disowned prince of the Kingdom of Barak. The previous images on the sky screen only showed his extraordinary talent, his awakening of twin spirits and innate full spirit power, followed by his hard work to cultivate an eventual successful revenge. There was nothing else. Although, thanks to the powerful strength of the system, as the reality rate increased, certain people in many places gradually remembered that they had seen Super Douluo Zhu Hen before. Whether in coastal cities or at the Great Spirit Arena, but regardless, he hadn't really been famous in the Spirit Master's world before. For someone with powerful strength, but no fame to suddenly start making big moves in the Spirit Master's world, after being exposed on the sky screen, was somewhat abrupt. Previously, causing a scene at the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School could be justified as revenge, but what about afterwards? What would it be for? Therefore, to flesh out his persona and ensure the increase of the reality rate, Zhu Hen felt it was necessary to lay some groundwork. Originally, his idea was to accept the recruitment of the Heaven Du imperial family, to put on a show of standing with the Heaven Du Empire, and by fighting against Spirit Hall, fighting against the Star Lu Empire, and various other matters, to openly and legitimately stay in the Spirit Master's world. But this idea was hindered by Qian Rengxu's actions of poisoning Zhu Yi's mind against him. After all, Emperor Zhu Yi was so shameless. In order to win over the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, he agreed to conjure banishing him from the royal family, and even told him that he had been deceived. If he were to still accept his invitation, putting the persona aside, Qian Rengxu herself would definitely be suspicious. What was he doing this for? Therefore, he had to change his setup. Now that he knew Bibaidong regarded him as an enemy, having such a powerful spirit master in the Spirit Master's world viewing him as an enemy meant he certainly had to do something to retaliate, or rather, give her a taste of her own medicine. This was the opportunity for him to step onto the main stage and start making a name for himself in the Spirit Master's world. Platinum Bishop Salas of the Spirit Temple in Heaven Du City was promoted by Bibaidong herself. Since Bibaidong treats me as an enemy, then tomorrow I will first visit her capable subordinate and eradicate her influence in Heaven Du City. That is very reasonable, right? Looking in the direction of the Spirit Temple, Zhu Hen thought with a smile. On the other side, Spirit City. In the Supreme Pontiff Palace, Bibaidong was being forced into a coup. Supreme Pontiff, please explain, is everything mentioned on the sky screen just now true? Was the late Emperor really secretly harmed by you? Spirit Kite Douluo stood in front of the steps, looking up at Bibaidong sitting on the high seat and asked. Bibaidong remained silent, only gripping her scepter tighter. Spirit Kite, how can you speak to the Supreme Pontiff like that? On the sky screen, that brat Yuan Kai said the Supreme Pontiff is the culprit, so she is the culprit. The Supreme Pontiff is the late Emperor's beloved disciple. Back then, it was the late Emperor who conferred the title of Holy Maiden upon her and established her as the successor to the Supreme Pontiff position. The late Emperor showed such great kindness to her, how could she possibly have secretly harmed him? Chrysanthemum Douluo said to Spirit Kite Douluo. Yue Guan, I am asking the Supreme Pontiff, not you. Also on the sky screen, did you call the Supreme Pontiff a stinking woman and complain that she meddled too much? What, do you not hold any dissatisfaction with her now? How would I know about future events? Supreme Pontiff, your subordinate is loyal to you and has absolutely no disrespect. Chrysanthemum Douluo's expression changed drastically, and he hurriedly explained to Bibaidong. Loyal, Yu Guan, you and Gui Mei were the late Emperor's right-hand men back then. How can you face the late Emperor like this? Ghost Leopard Douluo squinted at Yu Guan and said coldly. There is no evidence that the late Emperor was secretly harmed by the Supreme Pontiff, Yu Guan shouted. It was already stated clearly on the sky screen, and thinking about it now, the late Emperor's passing was indeed sudden. From the side, Devil Bear Douluo suddenly spoke up. Where was it sudden? Ghost Douluo frowned and said, back then, the late Emperor was heavily injured by Tang Hao using the Clear Sky Sex Ring explosion secret technique. It was me and Old Ghost who helped him back, and then he died from his injuries. The point is exactly that, died from his injuries. Back then, when the late emperor was heavily injured by Tang Hao and you two helped him back, I happened to be in the city. After hearing the news, I immediately went to visit the late emperor. At that time, although the late emperor's aura was weak, he did not look like he was dying. How did he suddenly pass away that very night? Saying this, Devil Bear Douluo looked at Bibaidong sitting on the high seat, took a step forward, and questioned her. It was you, right? You took advantage of the late emperor being heavily injured and ambushed him. Devil Bear, you cannot speak nonsense, Ghost Douluo warned Devil Bear Douluo. Whether I am speaking nonsense, or if the facts are truly so, I ask the Supreme Pontiff to give a direct answer. Devil Bear Douluo placed his right hand on his left chest and said seriously to Bibaidong. After he finished speaking, Spirit Kite Douluo and Ghost Leopard Douluo stepped forward simultaneously, stood side by side with Devil Bear Douluo, and looked directly at Bibaidong together. On the high platform, Bibaidong, sitting on the Supreme Pontiff throne, looked down at these three people, her eyes incomparably cold. To think, there are still people who want to seek justice for Kai and Zunji. How ironic, how sad this world is. Indeed, such a terrible world should be completely destroyed by me. Supreme Pontiff is silent. Does this mean you are tacitly admitting it? Spirit Kite Douluo raised her eyebrows and asked, starting to secretly mobilize her spirit power, ready to activate her spirit at any time. Supreme Pontiff, quickly tell them that what Yuan Kai said on the sky screen is fake. The late emperor was not. It is true, it is all true. Before Yu Guan could finish his sentence, Bibaidong finally spoke, saying coldly to everyone. What? Hearing this, the expressions of Yu Guan and Gui Mei changed simultaneously. It was actually true. Boom! 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 Three powerful waves of spirit power surged. Yu Guan and Gui Mei were startled and immediately looked over, only to see Spirit Kite Douluo, Ghost Leopard Douluo, and Devil Bear Douluo had all activated their spirits, and spirit rings emerged from beneath their feet one by one. Since you have admitted it, as elders of Spirit Hall, we must now fulfill our duty and rid Spirit Hall of you, this thief who killed the monarch and usurped the throne, Devil Bear Douluo shouted. After he finished speaking, the three of them jumped up together, completed their spirit manifestations in midair, and attacked Bibaidong on the high platform. Just by relying on the three of you, you want to avenge Kai and Zunji. Do you even deserve to? Bibaidong's pupils widened slightly. The Death Spider Emperor spirit appeared behind her, and 9 spirit rings, yellow, purple, purple, black, 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 red, flashed rapidly. A powerful aura erupted from her body, and she waved the scepter in her hand, swinging it forcefully at the 3 people attacking her. Boom! The next second, a series of earth-shattering battle sounds rang out inside the Supreme Pontiff Palace. A fictional character, descendant of the sun god Yuan Kai. Reality rate, 47.29% right arrow, 48% right arrow, 49.22%. The decision to let Yuan Kai appear on the sky screen was indeed correct. His reality rate has also increased. After deciding what to do tomorrow, Zhu Hen changed his clothes, lay down on the bed, and planned to rest. Before sleeping, he glanced at the system panel and nodded with satisfaction upon seeing that Yuan Kai's reality rate had increased. Then he closed his eyes and began to sleep. Meanwhile, in the Supreme Pontiff Palace, Bibaidong and the 3 of Devil Bear Douluo were fighting more and more intensely. Chapter 39 Gold Crocodile Douluo and Kaian Daelu. At this moment, Bibaidong's spirit power had actually reached level 98, but due to the restrictions of the Rakshasa God trial, she could only unleash strength around level 95. Under these circumstances, even with her twin spirits, 2 100,000-year spirit rings, and the corresponding spirit bones, she could only fight to a standstill against the siege of Devil Bear Douluo and the others, unable to gain any advantage whatsoever. Damned Rakshasa God, realizing she couldn't take down these 3 fellows, Bibaidong cursed inwardly. Immediately after forcing Spirit Kite Douluo back with her scepter, she dodged the attacks from Devil Bear Douluo and Ghost Leopard Douluo, then ordered Ghost Douluo and Chrysanthemum Douluo below. Gui Mei Yu Guan, what are you still standing there for? Attack, take down these 3 traitors for me. This, Gui Mei and Yu Guan hesitated. Traitors, Bibaidong, you caused the death of the former Supreme Pontiff. You are the true traitor of our Spirit Hall, Devil Bear Douluo shouted. That's right, Gui Mei Yu Guan, have you forgotten the former Supreme Pontiff's kindness in recognizing your talents, and forgotten your responsibilities as elders of Spirit Hall? Quickly join us and take down this traitor, Bibaidong, Spirit Kite Douluo called out to Gui Mei and Yu Guan. Gui Mei and Yu Guan exchanged a glance, both seeing the conflict in each other's eyes. Kai and Zunji had indeed shown them favor, but Bibai Dong had been the supreme pontiff for over a decade, and they had followed her orders for just as long. This, attacking her, was something they truly couldn't bring themselves to do psychologically for the moment. HMPH, to think they dared disobey me, they really are two ungrateful wretches. Entangled with Devil Bear Douluo and the others, she glanced at Chrysanthemum Douluo and Ghost Douluo. Seeing them hesitating on the spot and failing to come to her aid as ordered, Bibai Dong's expression turned icy as she cursed inwardly. Subsequently, looking at the three titled Douluo besieging her, she began to use her ultimate moves. Boom! A terrifying killing intent erupted from her body, transforming into a visible red light that rapidly enveloped the surroundings. Slaughter God Domain. This was the reward she obtained after completing the first test left by the Asura god on the Douluo Continent, a domain condensed from killing intent. In this domain, one's aura is enhanced, allowing the user to unleash 110% of their power, while the enemy's strength is weakened by 10%. Furthermore, as the spirit grows, this ratio increases. Not good, it's a domain. Ghost Leopard Douluo's expression changed, and he exclaimed. Don't be afraid, Devil Bear True Body. The seventh spirit ring beneath Devil Bear Douluo's feet bloomed with dazzling black light. Crossing his arms to block in front of him, he shouted, use your strongest spirit ability to destroy her. Ninth spirit ability, Blazing Meteor Fall. As he spoke, the ninth spirit ring beneath his feet also erupted with dazzling light. Seeing Devil Bear Douluo's actions and hearing his shout, Ghost Leopard Douluo calmed down. He and Spirit Kite Douluo nodded tacitly, then both activated their martial soul True Body. Ghost Leopard True Body. Spirit Kite True Body. Ninth. Enough, all of you stop. Just as the two were about to unleash their ninth spirit ability like Devil Bear Douluo, a majestic shout suddenly came from outside the Supreme Pontiff Palace. Subsequently, boom, an extremely thick beam of golden light shot toward them. In an instant, it interrupted the ninth spirit ability that Devil Bear Douluo was about to successfully unleash, simultaneously knocking back Bibai Dong and forcing Ghost Leopard Douluo and Spirit Kite Douluo to retreat. Following this, the sound of steady, powerful footsteps rang out, and a rugged figure strode into the hall. The lights in the hall cast his shadow, making it appear immense. The offering hall's second priest, Gold Crocodile Douluo, Ghost Douluo and Chrysanthemum Douluo's expressions changed as they muttered. Then, realizing who it was, they hurriedly bowed to the newcomer. Greetings, second priest. Gold Crocodile Douluo ignored them. He scanned the hall, which had become battered and damaged, then fixed his gaze on Bibai Dong on the high platform. She had been knocked back by his previous strike, her back was now pressed against the wall, and she was panting slightly with one hand on her chest. He said to her coldly, Bibi Dong, the high priest wants to see you. Come with me. Second priest, Bibai Dong just admitted herself that she was the one who killed the former supreme pontiff. After steadying herself, Spirit Kite Douluo stepped forward and bowed to Gold Crocodile Douluo. Then she looked at Bibai Dong and continued, I ask the second priest to take action, slay this traitor, and avenge the former supreme pontiff. I also ask the second priest to take action and avenge the former supreme pontiff. Devil Bear Douluo and Ghost Leopard Douluo also came over and bowed together. Looking at them, Gold Crocodile Douluo said, the high priest will handle this matter. Yes, the three replied in unison. The high priest was the former supreme pontiff's father, and also the previous supreme pontiff of Spirit Hall. He would certainly not let Bibai Dong, the murderer who killed his son, go. Devil Bear Douluo and the others all felt this way. Bibi Dong, what are you still standing there for? Come down and follow me to see the high priest. After responding to Devil Bear Douluo and the others, Gold Crocodile Douluo looked at Bibai Dong, who hadn't moved a step on the high platform, and said to her coldly. Who Tilda? Bibai Dong closed her eyes and took a deep breath. How hateful that she was restricted by the Rakshasa god trial and couldn't unleash her full power. Otherwise, she would have finished off those three fellows just now, and she wouldn't have to endure Gold Crocodile Douluo's arrogant attitude right now. No matter how much she hated it in her heart, reality could not be changed. There was no other way. Bibi Dong reopened her eyes and said coldly, let's go, led the way. HMPH, Gold Crocodile Douluo snorted coldly, turned around and strode away. Bibi Dong walked down the steps, clutching her scepter that represented the Supreme Pontiff, and followed behind him out of the hall. During this time, she exchanged glances with Devil Bear Douluo, Spirit Kite Douluo, and Ghost Leopard Douluo, all of them able to see the killing intent in each other's eyes. Not only that, she also turned her head to look at Chrysanthemum Douluo and Ghost Douluo, but the two of them looked at her with evasive eyes. HMPH, two ungrateful wretches. Shortly after, inside the offering hall, before the massive angel god statue, an old man dressed in a gold and blue coat stood there, hands behind his back, facing away from the hall entrance. Gold Crocodile Douluo brought Bibaidong in. High Priest, Gold Crocodile Douluo placed his right hand on his left chest and said to Kyan Dalu, Bibaidong is here. Kyan Dalu nodded. HMPH, what did you call me here for? To kill me? Bibaidong gazed at Kyan Dalu's back and snorted coldly. If I wanted to kill you, I would have done it over a decade ago. Kyan Zunji wronged you, I know this. So for the sake of this and Xyrox you, I did not take action against you back then, and even helped you ascend to the position of Supreme Pontiff. However, Kyan Dalu slowly turned around and looked at Bibaidong before him. The situation is different now. The matter of you killing Jia has been exposed by the sky screen, and the entire continent knows. With you like this, even with my support, you can no longer serve as Supreme Pontiff. The disciples of Spirit Hall will not accept it, nor will they understand. So you want to depose me? Bibaidong asked, a dangerous glint flashing in her eyes. Chapter 40, Abolishing Bibaidong's Supreme Pontiff Position, Continent-wide Wanted Notice. I have no choice. Spirit Hall is the holy land of the Spirit Master's world. We cannot allow someone who killed their sovereign and master to continue serving as Supreme Pontiff. Otherwise, we won't be able to appease the disciples internally, and we will be ridiculed by outsiders, Kyan Dalu said with some helplessness. HMPH, I killed my sovereign and master. Didn't you know about this long ago? What, since outsiders didn't know, you could turn a blind eye, but now that outsiders know, you have to start protecting Spirit Hall's reputation. Kyan Dalu, you are truly hypocritical. Bibaidong sneered at Kyan Dalu. Hypocritical? Kyan Dalu lowered his eyes, thinking of how he clearly knew why Kyan Zunji died back then. Yet, in order to cooperate with Bibaidong's framing of Tang Hao, he still took his sword and left Spirit City to hunt down Tang Hao. He couldn't help but sigh. Yes, I am indeed a hypocritical person. So that is why the great angel god did not choose me as the successor, right? Kyan Dalu said, looking back at the angel god statue behind him. HMPH, I have been Supreme Pontiff for nearly 13 years. Kyan Dalu, wanting to depose me is not something you can do with just a word. Bibaidong still wanted to struggle. After all, if she lost the position of Supreme Pontiff, it would be even harder for her to take revenge on this world. She was still in the process of accepting the Rakshasa god trial, and she wasn't certain if she could pass all the Rakshasa god trials and eventually become a god at level 100. If she couldn't pass them all, then at her strongest, she would be nothing more than a level 99 peerless Douluo like Kyan Dalu. Being like this, she wouldn't be able to destroy Spirit Hall or destroy this world. I know that over these years, you have cultivated many people and planted them in various places within Spirit Hall, but among those you have cultivated, none are titled Douluo, so they cannot block my decision. If you cooperate with me and leave the throne of the Supreme Pontiff, I will not purge those people. I will leave them to you, allowing you to manage them from behind the scenes until Xyrozu returns. Kyan Dalu offered his terms. Hearing this, Bibaidong's expression softened slightly, but she was still not very satisfied. You want me to hide behind the scenes and manipulate things? Does that mean I won't be able to appear openly in Spirit Hall in the future? You cannot. Not only that, but I will also issue an order to have you wanted across the entire continent. Kyan Dalu, Bibaidong became anxious. This is something that must be done. Once the matter of you killing your master is exposed and you are deposed from the position of Supreme Pontiff, you will have fled. Spirit Hall must take a stance. If we don't issue a wanted notice for you, how can we answer to the many disciples? How can we answer to the world? Kyan Dalu asked back. Bibaidong remained silent. Seeing that she didn't speak, Kyan Dalu also fell silent. After a long while, he waved his hand at her, his voice sounding somewhat exhausted. Go, tomorrow, I will announce to the entire continent that I have abolished your position as Supreme Pontiff and that you fled amidst the chaos. Where should I go? The world is vast, where you go is up to you. Understood. Bibaidong ultimately accepted Kyan Dalu's conditions, said coldly, and then turned and walked outside. Watching her leave, and after her figure disappeared, Gold Crocodile Douluo immediately asked Kyan Dalu, "High Priest, why not just kill her? She is too ambitious, and I fear she will become a threat to Xirozu in the future. She is Xirozu's mother, after all. I cannot let Xirozu become an orphan." Kyan Dalu shook his head. "With you here, Xirozu will not be an orphan. I cannot accompany Xirozu forever. Once I complete my task." Kyan Dalu sighed helplessly. The next day, early morning, Spirit City issued 2 notices to the outside world. One, following an investigation and confirmation by the Offering Hall, Bibaidong used despicable means to assassinate the former Supreme Pontiff Kyan Zunji, framed the Clear Sky Douluo, and deceived the various elders and high priest to ascend to the position of Supreme Pontiff. Her actions are heinous and intolerable to both gods and men. Last night, High Priest Kyan Dalu issued an order to strip her of her Supreme Pontiff position and imprison her for judgment. However, she took advantage of the chaos in the city, injured 3 elders, and fled to avoid punishment. Such vicious behavior adds to her crimes. Now our Spirit Hall hereby announces to the entire continent that Bibaidong is expelled from Spirit Hall. We no longer recognize her as a member of Spirit Hall and have issued a wanted notice. Anyone who can capture her alive or present her corpse will be rewarded with a 50,000-year spirit bone and 5 million gold coins. 2. Spirit Hall will not lift its hostility towards the Clear Sky sect just because the former Supreme Pontiff's death had another culprit. The Clear Sky Douluo Tanghao, who injured the former Supreme Pontiff, bears inescapable responsibility for the fact that the former Supreme Pontiff was assassinated by Bibaidong. As the sect to which Tang Hao belongs, the Clear Sky sect is blameworthy. Therefore Spirit Hall and the Clear Sky sect remain hostile factions. These 2 notices spread rapidly across the continent. Heaven Do City, inside the Four Seasons Inn. Sunlight shone through the window, spilling onto the bed, giving a warm and comfortable feeling. Zhu Hen rubbed his eyes, then slowly opened them and sat up from the bed. He had rested quite well last night. He wondered if Kyan Rengsu, who had hindered him, was doing the same. With a light chuckle, Zhu Hen lifted the blanket, got out of bed, stretched his joints, changed his clothes, and then strode out of the room. He had already set his plan for today, before going to sleep last night. The sky screen showed that Bibaidong viewed him as an enemy, so he would go visit her nearest subordinate branch, the Spirit Temple in Heaven Do City, today. That was reasonable, right? "Guest Zhu, Your Excellency Zhu Hen." The front desk manager looked at Zhu Hen, who was not wearing a mask this time. The person was stunned for a moment, and then their expression immediately became incomparably excited. "Zhu, I want to extend my stay for a few more days. Here is the room fee. My room number is 206. Zhu Hen handed a gold coin to the front desk manager and said, Yes. The manager was so excited and nervous that he couldn't even speak clearly. However, his good professional training still made him quickly reach out to take the gold coin Zhu Hen handed over and give him the change. At the same time, other guests eating breakfast on the first floor heard the manager's excited voice just now, looked over, and then all became excited and nervous as well. "Your Excellency Zhu Hen, the living Your Excellency Zhu Hen." So what those people said was true. His Excellency really had come to Heaven Do City. Your Excellency, please have breakfast." After giving the change, the front desk manager turned and brought out a breakfast for Zhu Hen. Zhu Hen nodded, took the breakfast, and found a seat. He ignored the gazes falling on him and the whispered discussions of others, eating on his own. After he was full, he got up, walked out of the inn, and strode toward the direction of the Spirit Temple. Without a mask, he was watched by countless people as he walked on the street, and his movements were quickly known by many forces in the city. They inferred his destination based on the route Zhu Hen was taking. Suddenly, the heads of these forces couldn't help but gasp. Zhu Hen, he was going to the Spirit Temple. In the Spirit Temple, Platinum Bishop Salas, who received the news and made the same judgment, had his expression change instantly. "This is coming for me." Chapter 41, The Attempted Escape of Platinum Bishop Salas. Platinum Bishop Salas panicked. He sprang up from his chair instantly and paced back and forth in the hall. What should I do? What should I do?" he muttered nervously, sweat beginning to appear on his forehead. He was merely an 89th rank spirit Douluo with no power to bind a chicken, How could he possibly withstand that 98th rank monster, Zhu Hen? Bishop, should we gather the Spirit Temple Knights and set an ambush in advance to catch Zhu Hen off guard? An advanced deacon suggested to Platinum Bishop Salas. Ambush? Didn't you see the scene on the sky screen where that guy killed 100,000-year spirit beast with a single sword strike? You want a group of level 50 or 60 Spirit Temple Knights to ambush him. Do you think they are titled Douluo? Platinum Bishop Salas shouted at the deacon. The advanced deacon hung his head in shame and took a few steps back. No, I cannot sit and wait for death. Zhu Hen must have watched the sky screen last night and realized that the Supreme Pontiff views him as an enemy and wants to eliminate him, which is why he has come to cause trouble for me. After all, I am the right-hand man of the Supreme Pontiff, Platinum Bishop Salas muttered. Subsequently, his eyes narrowed, and a look of seriousness appeared on his face. He instructed the advanced deacon beside him, pass down the order, close the temple gates, and post a notice stating that I have received the decree from the Supreme Pontiff and have returned to Spirit City to report on my duties. During this period, the Spirit Temple and Heaven Dew City will suspend all external activities. Huh? The advanced deacon was stunned. So what you meant by cannot sit and wait for death was actually to run away. What? Huh? Go quickly, Platinum Bishop Salas urged him. Oh yes, Bishop, the deacon bowed and replied, then retreated. I am leaving right now. Watching the deacon retreat, Platinum Bishop Salas said to himself, then turned around, intending to leave through the back door. However, when he walked out of the back door of the Spirit Temple, he discovered that there were actually two people guarding the area, blocking his path. Sect Master Enning, Ning Fengzhai smiled at him while leaning on his cane. Sect Master Enning, looking at the person in front of him, a flash of surprise crossed Platinum Bishop Salas' eyes. When he saw Douluo following closely behind the other party, he suddenly realized the situation, and his face became extremely ugly. They specifically came to block the back door to prevent me from escaping. Platinum Bishop Salas, Zhu Hen is walking towards the Spirit Temple. I imagine he has something to discuss with you. If you leave so suddenly, you will make him waste his trip. Be careful, or he might hold a grudge against you for this. Ning Fengzhai smiled, putting on an appearance of considering it for him. If I don't run, I'm afraid I'll be slashed to death by his sword. Platinum Bishop Salas gritted his teeth and thought to himself. Go back, Platinum Bishop Salas. Ning Fengzhai made a gesture of invitation and said. Ning Fengzhai, do you intend to make an enemy of Spirit Hall? Platinum Bishop Salas threatened furiously. Hearing this, the smile on Ning Fengzhai's face vanished abruptly, and he became extremely cold. He said, an enemy? Have you forgotten so quickly that the sky screen showed Spirit Hall slaughtering my disciples and destroying my sect in the future? Bishop, I am merely giving you a small payback. Those things have not happened yet. My Spirit Hall has not destroyed your 7 treasure glazed tile school, Platinum Bishop Salas emphasized. To offend Spirit Hall for a future that hasn't happened yet, this is not a wise move. By the time it happens, it will be too late. Besides, I have known about the ambition and methods of Spirit Hall for a long time. Whether or not you will really do what the sky screen said in the future, I have my own judgment, Ning Fengzhai said coldly. You. Whoosh, Platinum Bishop Salas wanted to say something more, but Chen Xin, who was standing behind Ning Fengzhai, opened his right hand and activated his 7-kill sword spirit. He pointed the tip of the sword at Platinum Bishop Salas and warned him while looking at him, go back or receive a sword strike from me. Platinum Bishop Salas had a clear understanding of his own strength. He could not withstand a sword strike from Zhu Hen, and he could not withstand a sword strike from Chen Xin either. Looking at the 7-kill sword pointed directly at him, he instinctively took 2 steps back, his body trembling uncontrollably. There was both fear and anger. Ning Fengzhai saw Douluo Chen Xin, you will definitely pay the price for today's actions, Platinum Bishop Salas said to the two. Platinum Bishop Salas, survive today's crisis before you say things like that, Ning Fengzhai said indifferently. Boom, at this moment, a loud noise erupted behind them, and this loud noise was mixed with the screams of many people. Fengzhai, Zhu Hen has arrived, Chen Xin said to Ning Fengzhai. Uncle Sword, send Platinum Bishop Salas back, Ning Fengzhai nodded and said. Boom, as soon as the words fell, Chen Xin immediately swung the 7-kill sword toward the ground in front of Platinum Bishop Salas. The terrifying sword Kai swept onto the ground, creating an impact force that spread to the surroundings. With a bang, it directly blasted Platinum Bishop Salas back the way he came. HMPH Uncle Sword, let's go. Watching the figure of Platinum Bishop Salas being blasted away, Ning Fengzhai gave a light hum and then said to Chen Xin. "MHM," Chen Xin nodded and escorted Ning Fengzhai as he turned and left. Meanwhile, Zhu Hen, who had already arrived in front of the spirit temple, looked at the gate that he had split open with a single sword strike. Holding the imperial power sword, he stepped onto the steps and walked inside step by step. Yellow, yellow, purple, purple, black, 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 red, red, 9 spirit rings appeared at his feet, moving along with him. "Yo, Your Excellency, our bishop is not here. He has returned to Spirit City to report on his duties." The advanced deacon, who had been blasted away by the sword Kai and was lying on the ground injured, blood spilling from the corner of his mouth, looked at Zhu Hen as he walked into the hall and said with difficulty. He hoped that Zhu Hen would be like last time at the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, when he was tricked into leaving by Gu Rong, and that upon hearing his words, he would just turn back and head home. However, times have changed. Back then, Zhu Hen had left the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School on purpose, but this time, how could he possibly leave? Furthermore, bang! Ouch! Watching the figure that had flown back from the back of the hall, fallen to the ground and let out a pained cry, Zhu Hen said indifferently, "Not here, then who is he?" Zhu Hen had never met Platinum Bishop Salas and did not recognize him, but he recognized the uniform of a Platinum Bishop that he was wearing. Looking at that figure, the advanced deacon of the Spirit Temple did not know how to answer Zhu Hen's question for a moment. He did not understand. Hadn't the bishop run away? Why was he back? Whoosh! The next second, a flash of sword light swept past, and he no longer needed to ponder these questions. A cut appeared on his neck, and a large amount of blood sprayed out from it. Then he widened his eyes and opened his mouth, wanting to say something, but in the end, he did not manage to say a single word before he hit the ground with a bang, lying completely still and losing his breath. "Daring to lie to me, you are truly tired of living," Zhu Hen said coldly. Then he cast his gaze toward Platinum Bishop Salas, who was currently climbing up from the ground. Chapter 42, Blue-Robed Bishop Wang Yi. "I heard that the Platinum Bishop of the Heaven Du Spirit Temple is a trusted subordinate, personally promoted by Bibai Dong. This shouldn't be false, right?" Zhu Hen asked Platinum Bishop Salas in an extremely calm tone. At the same time, he slowly raised the imperial power sword in his hand, the tip pointing at him as he crawled up from the ground. Being pointed at by a sword again. As a Platinum Bishop Salas was, if not a figure who could command the wind and rain in Heaven Du City, at least a prominent existence. Even the Emperor had to give him some face upon meeting him. But today, being pointed at by a sword twice in a row, this was truly a great humiliation. However, it just so happened that both people who treated him this way were Super Douluo above level 95. He couldn't beat either of them. What could he do? He could only endure it. Your Excellency, what the sky screen says, may not all be true. Our Supreme Pontiff and you are complete strangers. How could she view you as an enemy? Furthermore, Your Excellency, your spirit power is superb. Our spirit hall has always operated on the principle of making friends with experts from all sides, and jointly maintaining the order of the Spirit Master's world. Towards you we will only show goodwill and maintain a good relationship. We absolutely will not and cannot view you as an enemy. With no way to escape, Platinum Bishop Salas had no choice but to bite the bullet, bow to Zhu Hen, and explain. He hoped that Zhu Hen would not hold a grudge against the Spirit Hall because of those future scenes on the sky screen, and even less, come to bully a lowly level 89 Spirit Douluo like him. The principles of the Spirit Hall are indeed as you say, Zhu Hen nodded. Platinum Bishop Salas breathed a sigh of relief. But Bibai Dong's principles might not be. She killed her own teacher, framed the Clear Sky Douluo, and forcibly invited talented Spirit Masters to join the Spirit Hall. Those who refused would be hunted down by Spirit Masters she dispatched. For a woman like that to feel my existence hinders her, to be honest, I can quite understand it. Zhu Hen changed the subject and continued. Your Excellency, Platinum Bishop Salas' face changed drastically, and he retreated repeatedly. A bad premonition suddenly arose in his heart. This guy, could it be that he wants to? The Spirit Hall once showed me kindness, took me in, and helped me with my awakening. Therefore, let me do the Spirit Hall a good deed. Strike down the lackey that the usurper Bibai Dong has placed in this Heaven Du City. Not good, Platinum Bishop Salas thought to himself, immediately turning around to circulate his spirit power, then leaping into the air, wanting to flee. Whoosh! At the same time, the imperial power sword in Zhu Hen's hand shot out. Boom! In the blink of an eye, it pierced through his body, and then his body exploded with a bang, turning into a mist of blood. That's right, facing his current self, even a level 89 spirit Douluo had no hope of escape. He could be killed in one move. Next is you all. Who among you is loyal to Bibai Dong? Come out and die. Zhu Hen scanned the remaining crowd and spoke. The members of the spirit temple, who had been injured by the sword Kai that erupted when Zhu Hen split the door open earlier, were all terrified, and no one dared to answer. Are you all disloyal to her? Zhu Hen scanned these spirit masters and shook his head. Impossible. It's not that you aren't loyal to her, you're just afraid of death. Forget it, I'll send you all away together. As he said this, the imperial power sword in his hand bloomed with dazzling golden light. Seeing this scene, these spirit masters were scared to death. At this moment, one person hurriedly shouted, Your Excellency, the sky screen has already exposed that Bibai Dong killed the former Supreme Pontiff. How could we still be loyal to such a person? I implore Your Excellency to see the truth. Oh, Zhu Hen's arm, about to swing the sword, paused. Your Excellency, everyone knows you are a hero who distinguishes between gratitude and grudges. You must absolutely not kill the innocent indiscriminately. That would damage your reputation, Your Excellency. This person continued to shout. Who are you? Zhu Hen asked the spirit master who had shouted. I am the spirit temple blue-robed bishop, Wang Yi. This person stood up from the ground, staggering slightly, and bowed to Zhu Hen. After knowing that Bibai Dong is the murderer who killed Kai and Zunji, you decided to no longer serve her, Zhu Hen asked him. Who tilde? Wang Yi took a deep breath and solemnly replied, Yes. A fence-sitter, changing with the wind, Zhu Hen said lightly. Wang Yi shook his head. That is not the case. This is correcting the chaos and restoring order. How could we continue to obey the orders of someone who killed her master to ascend to power? The Spirit Hall is the holy land in the hearts of all spirit masters on the continent, and we joined the Spirit Hall with ideals. Our ideal has never been to serve an unloyal and unfilial traitor. Unloyal and unfilial. To actually use this term to describe Bibai Dong. Zhu Hen raised an eyebrow, feeling somewhat surprised, because even he hadn't thought of applying this term to Bibai Dong, yet this Wang Yi before him had. If these words were passed back to Spirit City and reached Bibai Dong's ears, even if he let him go this time, Bibai Dong would likely send someone to dispose of him. You have a lot of courage, blue-robed bishop. Speaking frankly is a virtue that every Spirit Hall spirit master should possess. Wang Yi took a deep breath and said with a serious face. Looking at him, feeling his temperament, Zhu Hen suddenly recalled Master Su Yuntao, who had taken him to the Jisai orphanage to receive relief back in Nyuding City, as well as Elder Mashinuo, who had helped him with his awakening at the Spirit Hall branch. He nodded. This person's feeling to him was very similar to those two. That's right, the high-level members of the Spirit Hall were mostly not good people, and were not innocent if they died, but a large portion of the middle and lower-level spirit masters were people with kind intentions, possessing their own morals and integrity. Thinking this, Zhu Hen slowly lowered his arm, looked at Wang Yi in front of him and said, I do not wish to see any spirit masters in the spirit temple who are loyal to your Supreme Pontiff. Within 3 days, deal with those people. Whether you kill them or drive them out of Heaven Du City, that is up to you. 3 days later, if this spirit temple still has Bibai Dong's lackeys, then it will have no need to exist. Wang Yi took a deep breath, forcibly enduring the injuries on his body, and bowed to Zhu Hen. Many thanks for your tolerance, Your Excellency. I will see it done. Zhu Hen took a deep look at him, then turned his body and walked towards the outside of the hall. After this incident, he could be considered officially involved in the struggles of the Spirit Master's world. In the future, he could reasonably, and without violating his persona, build up more presence in the Spirit Master's world, thereby increasing his authenticity rate. When the authenticity rate of his Super Douluo Zhu Hen character reached 100%, then his spirit power would be able to break through the bottleneck and rise to level 98. Zhu Hen calculated in his heart. Watching his departing back, Wang Yi breathed a sigh of relief, then, not knowing what he was thinking, suddenly mustered his courage and shouted to him, Your Excellency, I wonder if you would be willing to join the Spirit Temple. Zhu Hen stopped abruptly, suspecting something was wrong with his ears, and turned back to look at this blue-robed bishop. You once lived in the Jisai orphanage under the Spirit Hall, and you also had your awakening in the Spirit Hall. I believe you have a certain understanding of the Spirit Hall. Although some high-level members have devious intentions, the overall environment of the Spirit Hall is still good. If you could join the Spirit Temple and stay here to lead us in maintaining the order of the Spirit Master's world together, I believe the Spirit Master's world would definitely be much more stable than it is now, Wang Yi said to Zhu Hen extremely sincerely. I just destroyed your Platinum Bishop, and you turn around and invite me to join you, Zhu Hen asked. The Platinum Bishop was appointed by the Supreme Pontiff, not chosen by us ourselves and the Supreme Pontiff. She is a sinner, her appointment naturally can no longer count. Zhu Hen narrowed his eyes slightly. He felt that this Wang Yi was either truly righteous to a fault, or after surviving a disaster, he realized that what he had just said would lead to punishment from the Supreme Pontiff, so he wanted to keep him and rely on his prestige to withstand Bibaidong's punishment. Hess people, regardless of whether they are good or bad, will ultimately have their own little schemes. Chapter 43, The Frustrated Kaiyan Renxu. P.S. The previous chapter's content has been slightly modified. Readers who have already read it can take another look, as the characterization was slightly off before, so I adjusted it. Zhu Hen ultimately rejected Wang Yi's invitation. On the sky screen, he had not joined Spirit Hall even when he was weak, and had just awakened his twin spirits. Now that he had become a Super Douluo, how could he join Spirit Hall and be controlled by others? Letting Kaiyan Dalu abdicate to him, and having him serve as the High Priest, that would be more like it. Leaving the Spirit Temple and walking on the streets of Heaven Du City, feeling the many gazes falling upon him, Zhu Hen's expression remained unchanged, always maintaining an indifferent demeanor. His heart stirred, and he opened the system panel. Semi-fictional character, Super Douluo Zhu Hen. Reality rate, 99.21%, right arrow 99.5%. Only 0.5% left, I must work harder. Looking at the data above, Zhu Hen thought to himself. Meanwhile, in the Heaven Du Imperial Palace, Emperor Zhu Yi, who had been constantly monitoring Zhu Hen's movements, received news of Platinum Bishop Salah's death. He really died, was it Zhu Hen who did it? Emperor Zhu Yi asked the spy excitedly. Yes, Your Majesty. The prince forced his way into the Spirit Temple with a single sword, injured all the Spirit Masters in the Spirit Temple, and killed Platinum Bishop Salas in public. The spy knelt on one knee and reported. Ha tilde, hearing this answer, Emperor Zhu Yi looked up and laughed. Good, well killed. As expected of the Kilin of my Zhu clan, he did what I have always wanted to do but dared not. Prince Zhu Exing, who was on the side, nodded. Indeed, that old thing Salas, relying on the Supreme Pontiff's backing, has been acting recklessly in Heaven Du City all these years, always working against our royal family. Now that he is dead, and the matter of Bibaidong murdering Kaiyan Zunji has been exposed, Spirit Hall is about to be in chaos. We can just happen to suppress the Spirit Temple and weaken its influence in Heaven Du City. Not bad, we cannot miss this opportunity. Pass down the order, let those Spirit Master families loyal to the royal family unite, and blockade all actions of the Spirit Temple in Heaven Du City. I want to cut off the stinking hand that Spirit Hall has extended into the Spirit Master's world in Heaven Du City. Yes, Your Majesty. Yes, Imperial Brother. By the way, last night Zhu King followed my orders to see Zhu Hen. How did their conversation go? Zhu King hasn't informed me yet. Send someone to the Crown Prince's residence to summon him to the palace. I want to ask him. Emperor Zhu Yi suddenly thought of something and then ordered. Yes, Your Majesty. The attendant beside him bowed and responded, then withdrew to go to the Crown Prince's residence to pass the order. Imperial Brother. Hearing Emperor Zhu Yi say that he had let Zhu King go to see Zhu Hen last night, Prince Zhu Exing's expression changed slightly, but he quickly adjusted himself. He stepped forward 2 steps and suggested to Emperor Zhu Yi, Zhu Beng and Zhu Hen are also cousins. It is not appropriate for misunderstandings between brothers to remain unclarified. Why not let Zhu Beng also take some gifts to visit Zhu Hen? If he can ease their relationship, it would be a fortunate thing for our royal family. Hearing Prince Zhu Exing's suggestion, Emperor Zhu Yi thought for a moment, then shook his head. He is unruly and obstinate. Previously, when he was bullying the common people, he was caught by Zhu Hen, who taught him a small lesson. If he is allowed to see Zhu Hen, he might not be able to control his sense of propriety and offend him again. What should be done then? It is better to let him continue to reflect in confinement. I will take him with me and watch over him. That way he won't say the wrong things or do the wrong things, Prince Zhu Xing said. This, seeing that his younger brother had said so, Emperor Zhu Yi thought for a moment and finally nodded. All right, later you take Xu Beng to visit Xu Hen as well. But remember, you must watch him closely. He must never earn Xu Hen's resentment again, otherwise, I can only treat it as if I don't have that son, Emperor Zhu Yi warned. Hearing this, Prince Xuzing immediately gathered his full attention and guaranteed, Imperial brother, please rest assured. I will watch Xu Beng closely and will never let him offend Xu Hen again. Emperor Zhu Yi nodded. On the other side, in the Crown Prince's residence, Cayenne Renxiu did not yet know that her grandfather had reached an agreement with Bibaidong, nor did she know the content of the announcement posted by Spirit City today. At this moment, she was rubbing her temples, showing a frustrated expression. That woman. It was that woman who killed her father. It was a pity that when the sky screen showed her appearing in her father's bedroom on the night he passed away, she had still been making excuses for her, thinking it was impossible for her to be the murderer as some people said, and that the real murderer should have been Tang Hao. But last night's latest sky screen said it clearly, the real murderer was her, and Tang Hao had been framed. Not only that, she would assassinate Snake Lance Douluo and Porcupinefish Douluo, who were responsible for protecting her in the future. She was simply insane to the extreme. Young Lord, we cannot sit and wait for death. We should immediately return to Spirit City, unite with all the elders and high priests to depose Bibaidong, and then you can succeed to the position of Supreme Pontiff. In front of Cayenne Renxiu, Snake Lance Douluo clenched his fists and shouted at her very excitedly. On the side, Porcupinefish Douluo shook his head slightly more calmly. The young lord still has a mission here. For this mission, the young lord has already spent nearly 13 years. If you go back now to inherit the position of Supreme Pontiff, all previous efforts will be wasted. Then what do you say we should do? Snake Lance Douluo turned his head to look at Porcupinefish Douluo and asked loudly. The young lord can write a letter to the high priest, requesting the high priest to depose Bibaidong. After that, the position of Supreme Pontiff can be held by the high priest again, Porcupinefish Douluo said calmly. Hearing this, Snake Lance Douluo also gradually calmed down. That was true, deposing Bibaidong did not require the young lord to return personally. The position of Supreme Pontiff could also be held by the high priest. In any case, he had been the Supreme Pontiff before. Thinking of this, Snake Lance Douluo said to Cayenne Renxiu, I agree, young lord, Saizu's proposal is feasible. Knock, knock, knock. Looking at the two uncles in front of her, Cayenne Renxiu opened her mouth and was about to say something when suddenly, a knock on the door came from outside. Cayenne Renxiu got up and went to open a crack in the door of the study. Young lord, the latest news from the spirit temple. A spirit master dressed in guard attire handed over a letter and said with his head lowered. Yes, the spirit hall spirit masters hidden in this crown prince's residence were not just her, Snake Lance and Porcupinefish, there were many others. These people were guarding her side in various identities, including guards. Of course, as for titled Douluo, there were only two. Cayenne Renxiu took the intelligence, said and then closed the door. Walking back to the chair to sit down, she tore open the envelope and read the contents inside. After reading, her expression remained unchanged. She handed the letter to Snake Lance Douluo and Porcupinefish Douluo in front of her and said, Salas is dead, Xu Hen did it. Porcupinefish Douluo took the intelligence, looked at the content on it, and after reading it said, Salas was Bibaidong's person. It's good that he's dead. This way, we can arrange for our own people to replace him as Platinum Bishop. Cayenne Renxiu nodded. Standing at her height, the death of a Platinum Bishop was not a big deal, especially since that bishop was a subordinate of that woman. Knock, 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 tilde. At this moment, the knocking on the door sounded again. This time, it was Snake Lance Douluo's turn to open the door. What is it? He asked the guard outside the door. Elder, someone has come from the palace, saying that Emperor Zhu Yi invites the young lord to the palace. Understood, Snake Lance Douluo said coldly, then closed the door. Cayenne Renxiu, who heard their conversation, stood up again and said somewhat wearily, Zhu Yi must be wanting to ask me how my conversation with Xu Hen went after I went to see him last night. Once he knows that I not only failed to win over Xu Hen, but also incurred his dislike, I'm afraid I'm going to be severely scolded by him. Young lord, please endure it. Everything is for the great cause of Spirit Hall, Porcupinefish Douluo comforted Cayenne Renxiu. Cayenne Renxiu nodded, but at this moment, she couldn't help but think of the person she met in the alley last night. Yuan Kai. If she had held him back at that time and recognized him, would she still be so miserable? Surely not. Sighed Tilda. Chapter 44, Prince Yuzing teaches his nephew. Yuan Kai's background was mysterious, and it was highly likely he belonged to the god race. He also possessed the sun god Trial, and more than a decade ago, he was already able to stop a crazed Bibai Dong. Now, over a decade later, his strength had surely become even greater. Last night in the alley, his son Martial Soul only had one 100,000-year spirit ring. Kaian Renxu did not know why that was. But being different from ordinary people just went to show his power. Yes, as the realism of the character Yuan Kai increased, Kaian Renxu also gradually recalled some scenes of being with him. In her view, Yuan Kai was definitely one of her own people. Since he was one of her own, she was full of confidence in him. That Super Douluo Zhuhen only possessed twin spirits and innate level 10 spirit power, yet he was able to become a Super Douluo in his early 20s. Yuan Kai possessed innate level 20 spirit power and was older than him, so he must be even stronger. Perhaps he was already a level 99 peerless Douluo, just like her grandfather. I will go see Emperor Zhu Yi. As for writing the letter to grandfather, let me think about it some more. Two uncles, please help me find the whereabouts of Yuan Kai in the city first. If you can find him, our mission will be much simpler. Kaian Renxu said to Snake Lance Douluo and Porcupinefish Douluo. She still wanted to think about it. The young lord was still concerned that Bibai Dong was her biological mother. Snake Lance Douluo and Porcupinefish Douluo exchanged a glance and could see the meaning in each other's eyes. They felt somewhat helpless, but they could also understand. Immediately, the two said to Kaian Renxu, "Yes, young lord." I know, this is somewhat unfair to you two uncles, but please rest assured, I will definitely give you both an explanation and will never let what happened on the sky screen come to pass. Kaian Renxu promised the two. Hearing this, the two smiled. Young lord need not be like this, we understand. Kaian Renxu gave them a knowing smile, then adjusted her emotions, walked out of the study, went to meet the attendant sent by Emperor Zhu Yi, and followed him to the palace. Not long after, in the Heaven Dew Imperial Palace, Emperor Zhu Yi's roar resounded through the Great Hall. Trash, I thought you were different from Zhu Beng, but I didn't expect you to be such a good-for-nothing. I have already paved the way for you. You just needed to follow the steps to gain Zhu Hen's favor, and then take the opportunity to persuade him to return to the family. But you, not only did you fail to get along with him, you even caused his disgust. How could I have a son as stupid as a pig like you? Kaian Renxu was pointed at and scolded by Emperor Zhu Yi, which made her, who was naturally arrogant, feel extremely displeased. However, considering the big picture, she endured it and lowered her head to admit her fault to Emperor Zhu Yi. It is all this child's incompetence. Please forgive me, Father Emperor. Forgive you? How do you expect me to forgive you? Our Heaven Dew Imperial family finally produced a clansman who awakened the Emerald Swan Martial Soul after so many years. He is also gifted, becoming a Super Douluo at a young age. He should have been the pillar of our Imperial family, but because of you, he is even more resistant to the Imperial family. How can you expect me to forgive you? Emperor Zhu Yi roared. Kaian Renxu. He was abandoned by you and Kundra a long time ago. Even without me, he might not necessarily return to the Zhu clan. Why does it sound like it's all my fault? Where is your shame? Can't you reflect on yourself? You have disappointed me too much. Get out of here. Go back to your crown prince's residence and reflect on your mistakes. Get out. This child takes their leave. Please take care of your health, Father Emperor. Kaian Renxu hurriedly bowed and said. Get out, Emperor Zhu Yi shouted, waving his hand in anger. Yes, Kaian Renxu replied in a panic, then slowly retreated. After she left, Emperor Zhu Yi's anger had not yet dissipated. He smashed the vases and furniture in the hall. Cursing as he smashed them, I have been wise my whole life, how could I have two such useless sons? Heaven, why do you treat me like this? A long time later, after he finished venting, he walked to the steps and sat down directly, looking in the direction of the fourth prince's residence, muttering, Zhu Beng, I hope that with Prince Yuzing taking him there, he can win some of Zhu Hen's favor. Although that was the case, Zhu Beng was unruly, and he had already been taught a lesson by Zhu Hen when he bullied the common people before. Could Zhu Hen have any good feelings for him? Zhu Yi felt it was basically impossible. Sigh vast heaven, why are you so unfair to me? Emperor Zhu Yi lamented. Fourth prince's residence. Zhu Beng, wrapped in bandages, sat on the sofa. Prince Yuzing sat opposite him, telling him what happened at the spirit temple today, letting him further understand Zhu Hen's strength and his importance to the imperial family. Then Zhu Xing began to teach him what to say and do when he met Zhu Hen, and how to dispel his disgust. Actually, the method was very simple: sincerity. Sincerity, Zhu Beng was stunned. Yes, it is sincerity. That child Zhu Hen was kicked out of the palace by Kundra when he was young. He traveled alone, enduring the hardships of the world and experiencing the warmth and coldness of human relationships, growing up to become the super Douluo he is today. What tricks has he not seen? For him, the best way to get along is sincerity. Prince Zhu Xing taught Zhu Beng. He hurt you back then because he saw you bullying the common people. You must explain to him why you did that at the time. Wait, uncle, wouldn't that be telling him that Zhu King? Yes, it is to tell him that you did that to paralyze Zhu King, letting him think you are just a useless, dissolute prince who poses no threat to his crown prince position. You did all that for self-preservation. Zhu Hen was born into the Balak royal family. In his youth, he was bullied by Kundra's favorite concubine and young son, and was even eventually kicked out of the palace. He has had this kind of experience and knows the dark things in royal families, so he will also understand you. Not only that, after learning that Zhu King is suspected of harming his brothers to compete for the crown prince position, Zhu Hen will also feel disgust towards him, because he is someone who has been harmed by his own brothers. He will also incidentally feel sympathy for you. Afterward, you should visit him more often, get close to him, and ask him for advice when you encounter things you don't understand. You don't need to ask him to do anything, just ask more questions and talk more. Through this back and forth, he will eventually develop some closeness to you. After all, you are cousins by blood. Prince Zhu Xing pointed the way for Zhu Beng little by little. After hearing Zhu Xing's words, Zhu Beng suddenly realized and quickly said, "I understand, uncle, rest assured, I will do as you say." First build a relationship. In the future, if you can successfully persuade that child Zhu Hen to return to the imperial family, not only will the imperial family have a super Douluo, but you can also rely on him to avoid the threat from Zhu King, and perhaps it is not impossible to take back that crown prince throne. Prince Zhu Xing nodded and said, "This nephew will definitely work hard," Zhu Beng replied with a solemn face. Chapter 45, Realism Rate Increase, Uncle and Nephew Visit. It must be said, when it came to roping in powerhouses, Zhu Beng was very self-aware. Since Super Douluo Zhu Hen was a Super Douluo and possessed the royal bloodline, he was a reinforcement that the Heaven Du imperial family absolutely had to win back. As for the time Zhu Hen had sent him flying, Zhu Beng could simply pretend it never happened. Not only that, he could offer favors, provide explanations, and get close. He could do all of that. In the original story, when facing the successful Tang San, he had done the same thing. He became his disciple, remained respectful at all times, and never mentioned the time he was beaten up by the Shrek 7 devils. Hearing Zhu Beng's guarantee, Prince Zhu Xing nodded with relief. His nephew still understood the big picture. Next, he would just wait for evening to take him to visit Zhu Hen. On the main street of Heaven Du City, Zhu Hen was still walking here. Unaware that Prince Zhu Xing and Zhu Beng planned to find him tonight, he was currently strolling around. After Emperor Zhu Yi had lured him out, the visit from Zhu Qinghe, and his own rampage at the Spirit Temple where he killed Platinum Bishop Salas, he could now completely stop wearing a mask. He could openly appear in the Spirit Master's world with this face. It didn't matter if he was watched by countless people. On the sky screen, Zhu Hen was a person who hated trouble. But now his whereabouts were known by so many people and so many factions that wearing a mask was useless. It would only be self-deception. So he simply stopped wearing it, letting those curious about him get a good look. That was normal, right? No one would find it strange. Furthermore, for him now, the semi-fictional character Super Douluo Zhu Hen was only 0.5 away from a 100% realism rate. This was the time to build up presence and raise it. Therefore, taking this opportunity to stop hiding and show his face completely, he walked everywhere in the city, further experiencing the local customs and allowing the citizens of Heaven Du City to feel his existence more clearly. Let them know that the content on the sky screen was all real. Super Douluo Zhu Hen truly existed. In the evening, accompanied by the respectful escort of the person in charge of the Great Spirit Arena, Zhu Hen walked out of the building behind him. Returning to the main street, Zhu Hen moved his mind and called up the system panel. Semi-fictional character, Super Douluo Zhu Hen, realism rate, 99.5%, right arrow 99.76%. Looking at the data above, A flash of satisfaction crossed his eyes. It was getting closer and closer. At this rate, it wouldn't be long before he could complete the 100% realism rate for this character and step into the realm of level 98 spirit power. Closing the panel and looking up at the sky, Zhu Hen began to walk towards the hotel where he was staying. On the way, the citizens he brushed past still cast excited and nervous gazes at him. Zhu Hen didn't care at all and continued on his way. Returning to the hotel and finishing dinner there, he went upstairs and returned to his guest room. Without cultivating or reading, he moved a chair to the window and sat there, admiring the moonlight outside. It had been almost 21 years. He had transmigrated to this world for so many years. Before, he only had the Emerald Swan spirit and had been cultivating step by step, reaching the realm of Spirit Emperor. Then, in just over a month, he had suddenly risen from Spirit Emperor to a level 97 titled Douluo. Honestly, this feeling was very strange. The changes were too great. It felt like time was flying, like the sea had turned into mulberry fields, yet only a little over a month had passed. Zhu Hen shook his head. People, once it got to night, were prone to overthinking. Why think so much? Life was getting better and better, that was enough. Knock 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 tilde. At this moment, a knocking sound rang out. Zhu Hen's train of thought paused. He turned his gaze toward the door, released his mental force to sense it, and discovered an aura he had encountered before. Zhu Beng. Yesterday Qian Rengsu came, today he came. These two are quite competitive, Zhu Hen muttered to himself. Immediately he waved his hand, and the door bolt was lifted by a stream of Qi, causing the door to open inward automatically. Prince Yuzing was about to continue knocking when he discovered the door had suddenly opened on its own. He froze for a moment, then looked inside and saw the figure sitting on the chair by the window. Zhu Hen. In terms of blood relations, the other party was also his nephew, but seeing him for the first time in reality, and thinking of his terror on the sky screen as well as his rampage at the Spirit Temple this morning and the killing of Platinum Bishop Salas, Prince Yuzing suddenly felt a sense of fear in his heart. He didn't know how to start with the words he had originally intended to say. Imperial younger brother, may we come in? Fortunately, at this moment, Zhu Beng relieved his awkwardness. Wrapped in bandages, he poked his head out from behind Prince Yuzing and asked Zhu Hen very politely. Yesterday it was Zhu Qinghe, today it is you. I said there is no imperial younger brother of yours here, Zhu Hen said indifferently. Zhu Beng stepped out completely from behind Zhu Exing. His right hand was binding with bandages and hung in a sling across his chest. He held a bag of fruit in his left hand and said very seriously, we share the same ancestors and clan, and you are younger than me, so naturally, you are my imperial younger brother. Zhu Hen let out a disdainful snort. At this time, Prince Yuzing also mustered his courage. A look of closeness and kindness, similar to that of Emperor Zhu Yi, appeared on his face as he said to Zhu Hen, I am your imperial uncle Zhu Exing. Knowing you were staying here, I specifically brought your imperial elder brother to come and see you. Ah, may we come in? Zhu Hen looked at them. Seeing that Zhu Beng was carrying things and Prince Zhu Exing's hands were also full of things, he frowned and said, guests are welcome, please come in. Ha, good, good, Prince Yuzing laughed hurriedly. Then he took Zhu Beng inside together, placed the things they were carrying on the table, and introduced them to Zhu Hen. These are some snacks unique to Heaven Du City. We don't know if you have tasted them before, and these fruits are all very fresh, you should try them later. The items were not very expensive, but it was clear they had been carefully selected. The fruits were large and clean, and the snacks were still steaming. Zhu Hen stood up, walked over to look at the gifts they had brought, and then said to them, sit. Right, good, Prince Yuzing nodded repeatedly, then sat down on the sofa with Zhu Beng. Are you two here to lobby me to serve His Majesty the Emperor, or do you have other motives like His Highness the Crown Prince? Zhu Hen returned to his chair, sat down, and asked the two people in front of him. Other motives? Prince Yuzing and Zhu Beng exchanged a glance, feeling surprised by Zhu Hen's words. When Zhu Qinghe came, wasn't it under the orders of the imperial elder brother, father emperor, to get closer to Zhu Hen and persuade him to return to the family? How could there be other motives? The two of them couldn't figure it out, but they didn't intend to ask. They had to do their own business first. Prince Yuzing shook his head and said to Zhu Hen, that is not the case. I brought Zhu Beng here today mainly to resolve the misunderstanding between you brothers. As for whether you are willing to put aside your grudges and return to the imperial family, We certainly hope you can come back, but we cannot, nor do we dare to force you. Misunderstanding, Zhu Hen cast his gaze towards Zhu Beng. Zhu Beng, quickly, explain that matter to your imperial younger brother, Prince Yuzing said to Zhu Beng beside him. Imperial younger brother, actually. Chapter 46, support Zhu Beng and force Qian Rengxu to step down. Zhu Beng quickly explained his reasons for bullying the commoners that day, starting with the sudden, violent deaths of his two older brothers, then moving on to how Zhu Qinghe had been wooing officials, appearing humble and virtuous, and finally ascending to the position of crown prince. So you deliberately disguised yourself as incorrigible to make him think you were incompetent and not a threat to his position as crown prince, all to avoid him targeting you. You were protecting yourself in this. Forget to like, comment, subscribers, and share to AI Otaku Studio. Zhu Hen, who had known the reason all along, deliberately revealed a look of sudden realization. Zhu Beng nodded solemnly and replied, "That's right. If I didn't do this, I was afraid he would kill me just like he did my two royal brothers. Although I don't have any evidence, based on the logic that the person who gains the most is the culprit, I'm afraid their sudden deaths have something to do with him." On the side, Prince Yuzing also spoke with a serious expression. Zhu Qing is definitely not as virtuous as he appears on the surface. I have been in the imperial family for over 60 years and have seen plenty of disguises. I can see the ambition buried deep in his eyes. After he ascended to the position of crown prince on the surface, he appeared to be dedicated to assisting your majesty, but in reality, he was constantly recruiting officials loyal to himself. He is the crown prince. It is normal for him to want to build his own foundation. Zhu Hen put away the realization on his face, appeared thoughtful, and said indifferently, "That may be so, but your majesty is in the prime of his life, yet he is so impatient. How worried must he be about the instability of his position as crown prince?" With that, Prince Yuzing let out a heavy breath, then changed his tone, wearing a sincere expression as he said to Zhu Hen, "I've strayed a bit, Zhu Hen. We didn't come here today to complain to you about Zhu Qing's crimes, but merely to resolve the misunderstanding between you and Zhu Beng. Zhu Beng is not a plebe. He understands the importance of public opinion, and that causing trouble for no reason is a great mistake, but in order to protect himself, he had no choice. If he didn't pretend to be an incompetent waste, Zhu Qinghe would not let him go. I hope you can understand and not think of him as a violent prince who likes to oppress the commoners like others do." Zhu Hen tapped his fingers on the armrest of the chair and said indifferently, "Whether I can understand is not important. Judge by actions, not by intentions. Even if he has many reasons, what does that have to do with those innocent commoners? They were bullied, and the person who bullied them was Zhu Beng. This is undeniable, so it was not unjust for him to be knocked away by me at the time." Hearing this, Zhu Beng lowered his head. Prince Yuzing hurriedly said, "We also know that those commoners are innocent, so we secretly give them compensation afterwards. Some of them accidentally find gold coins on the road, and some have a big customer come when they are doing small business. We have all given them compensation." Zhu Hen looked at Prince Yuzing, and a flash of surprise crossed his face. This time it was a genuine expression. These two guys would secretly compensate the commoners after bullying them. This was actually not written in the original novel. "Younger brother, I know that compared to the compensation I give, the commoners might prefer not to have been bullied, but I have no choice. I have to survive. I think, for someone whose life is at stake at any time, one shouldn't have too high moral requirements. I have tried my best not to let myself become a person who stops at nothing to save his life." At this moment, Zhu Beng raised his head and said to Zhu Hen somewhat helplessly. Zhu Xing also sighed appropriately and shook his head. Quiet. The room suddenly became quiet. Zhu Hen frowned slightly, his fingers tapping continuously on the armrest. After thinking for a while, he said to the uncle and nephew in front of him, "Born into the imperial family, there are often things one cannot control. It is enough to have a clear conscience. Also, if you want to save your life, you don't have to pretend to be a playboy. You could pretend to be an idiot. That way you wouldn't have to bully those commoners. I don't know why you didn't think of that back then." Pretend to be an idiot? Zhu Beng was stunned. I really didn't think of this method at the time. Prince Yuzing's face also twitched slightly, and he scratched his head and said in a low voice, "All right, I know, it's getting late, so I won't keep the two of you." Zhu Hen stood up and said, "Younger brother, wait." Good. Prince Yuzing grabbed Zhu Beng, who wanted to say something else, pulled him up, and said to Zhu Hen, "It is indeed getting late. Since the matter has been made clear, we will take our leave first. Zhu Hen, get some rest early." Zhu Hen nodded. Seeing his imperial uncle like this, Zhu Beng had no choice but to swallow the words he originally wanted to say. He followed him out of the guest room. After walking out of the door, the two said goodbye to Zhu Hen again, then went downstairs together and walked towards the outside of the hotel. Watching the uncle and nephew leave, Zhu Hen thought to himself, the two of them are actually at a higher level than Kai and Rengxu. They both came with a purpose, but the two parties gave him completely different feelings. This is the difference. Zhu Hen stroked his chin, thinking of Tang San's treatment in the Heaven Du Empire in the original novel and the Vast Sea Cosmic Shroud, a super spirit tool treasured by the Heaven Du imperial family. He began to consider whether he should replicate part of Tang San's experience, support Zhu Beng, force Kai and Rengxu to step down, and then be able to use the system better with the help of the imperial family. Yes, his fictional sky screen, turning false into true, system cannot immediately obtain a high degree of authenticity just by making things up. Like you and Kai, even now, the authenticity of this character has not reached 50%. If there is the help of the Heaven Du imperial family, in the future when he wants to fictionalize something, he can arrange it in various places on the continent in advance, bury various clues that make people associate, and then play it on the sky screen. The effect will definitely be much different. Zhu Hen stood there thinking for a while, and finally decided to wait and see what Zhu Beng does next. If he also wants to get his support, he will definitely come again. Immediately, he closed the door, picked up a fruit they brought, and sat back on the chair. On the other side, on the streets of Heaven Du City, Prince Xu Xing and Zhu Beng were walking here, followed by many guards. These guards had previously been guarding the surroundings of the hotel. Imperial uncle, why were you in such a hurry to pull me away just now? I still have things to say, Zhu Beng asked Prince Xu Xing. We have already said enough just now. You should understand the principle that too much is as bad as too little, Prince Xu Xing said. But, after you finished explaining the reason for bullying the commoners just now, Zhu Hen's expression obviously changed. Later, when we talked to him, he also responded, which means he listened and believed your explanation. So the purpose of our trip today has been achieved. As for you wanting to get closer to him, this matter cannot be rushed. It must be taken slowly. Tomorrow you can bring some snacks to visit him again, and don't talk about those serious matters. Just ask him how he has been over the years, whether it has been hard for him to be outside alone since he was young, and say more words of concern for him, you know, Prince Xu Xing instructed Zhu Beng. Hearing this, Zhu Beng calmed down, thought carefully, and then nodded in response. I understand, Imperial Uncle. Teachable, Prince Xu Xing nodded with satisfaction. Chapter 47, The War of Words Between Clear Sky Sect and Spirit Hall. After receiving further guidance from Prince Xu Xing, in the days that followed, Zhu Beng came to the hotel to visit Zhu Hen every day, bringing some fruit and pastries each time, and chatting with him for a while. Although Zhu Hen did not give him a pleasant look, he remained tireless. Not only that, he always called him royal younger brother, and would tell Zhu Hen about the gossip he had recently heard in the Spirit Master's world, asking how he had gotten by all these years, and whether it had been very hard. In short, he never mentioned any serious business, nor did he say a word about wanting Zhu Hen to assist him. But not saying it didn't mean he didn't want it. The fact that he could persist in coming every day was proof enough of his intention. Soon, more than a month passed. Faced with his arrival, Zhu Hen gradually put away his coldness and occasionally nodded in response to his words, "Royal younger brother, then I will be heading back first." Everything was left unsaid. Meanwhile, as Zhu Hen moved about in Heaven Du City, interacting with some citizens daily, occasionally going to the Great Spirit Arena to sit in a corner and watch spirit fights, or going to the auction house to participate in auctions, the reality rate of his Super Douluo Zhu Hen was once again improved. More and more people believed that there really was such a Super Douluo named Zhu Hen in this world. Not for any other reason, but because they had seen it with their own eyes. They had personally come into contact with him. Semi-fictional character, Super Douluo Zhu Hen, reality rate, 99.5%, right arrow 99.98%. It's only a little bit left. Soon I will be able to break through the bottleneck and step into level 98. Sitting alone in a corner of the Great Spirit Arena, with other spectators staying far away from him, not daring to get close, Zhu Hen looked at the system panel that only he could see and thought to himself. Over this past month, it wasn't just the reality rate of Zhu Hen that had changed. Changes had also occurred in other parts of the continent. First, Spirit Hall. The news of High Priest Kaiyan Dalu announcing the removal of Bibaidong from the position of Supreme Pontiff spread throughout the entire continent. Everyone thought that Spirit Hall was about to fall into internal strife, with the two factions attacking each other, but unexpectedly, Spirit Hall was unusually stable. From the High Priest and elders down to the persons in charge of the Spirit Hall branch, everyone accepted this order, and no one raised any questions. As for Bibaidong, she did not gather the spirit masters loyal to her to resist Kaiyan Dalu, but instead disappeared. Spirit Hall publicly claimed that she had escaped during the chaos, and even issued a wanted warrant for her, but no one knew where she had escaped to. The position of Supreme Pontiff was also temporarily vacant, with the elders of the Elder Palace handling the affairs of Spirit Hall together. This caused Emperor Zhu Yi, Emperor Tianfeng, Ning Fengzhai, Tang Ziro, Yu Yuanzhen, and many other important figures in the Spirit Master's world to wring their hands in regret. They had originally thought that Spirit Hall would fight internally, and they would be able to fish in troubled waters, but they didn't expect Bibaidong to be so useless, admitting defeat to Kaiyan Dalu just like that. Disappointment, it was so disappointing. Secondly, Clear Sky Sect. Tang Ziro had originally arranged for Tang Yuehua to spread rumors, blaming the death of Kaiyan Zunji on Bibaidong, so that the world would think that the Clear Sky Sect was innocent, preparing for the Clear Sky Sect to return to the Spirit Master's world. Unexpectedly, just 2 days after doing so, the Sky Screen directly exposed the matter of Bibaidong killing her master to ascend to power in front of everyone. This time, the Clear Sky Sect didn't even need to go out of their way to spread rumors. Oh no, spread the truth, as everyone now knew who had actually killed Kaiyan Zunji. In short, the Clear Sky Sect had been wronged. Tang Hao was not the murderer who killed the former Supreme Pontiff at all. After watching the Sky Screen, Tang Ziro and the elders of the Clear Sky Sect immediately gave orders for the disciples to prepare to descend the mountain. The Clear Sky Sect was returning to the Spirit Master's world. However, to their surprise, Spirit Hall soon released 2 announcements, the content of which spread across the continent. The first was the removal of Bibaidong, which goes without saying. The second was, Spirit Hall will not lift its hostility towards the Clear Sky Sect, just because there is another murderer for the former Supreme Pontiff's death. Since the former Supreme Pontiff was assassinated by Bibaidong, Clear Sky Douluo Tang Hao, who wounded the former Supreme Pontiff, is unforgivable. As the sect where Tang Hao belongs, the Clear Sky Sect cannot shirk its responsibility. Therefore, Spirit Hall and the Clear Sky Sect remain hostile forces. Upon learning of this announcement, Tang Ziro and the other high-level members of the Clear Sky Sect were instantly furious. They cursed Kaiyan Dalu. They cursed him as viciously as possible. You already know that your bastard son wasn't beaten to death by a disciple of our Clear Sky Sect, yet you still suppress us like this. You old thing, this is simply bullying people too much. Immediately, some disciples who had already descended the mountain and moved into Heaven Do City, where they had established a branch, began a war of words with Spirit Hall, pointing out that the reason Kaiyan Zunji was severely wounded by Tang Hao back then was entirely because he had led people to hunt down Tang Hao and his wife first, and Tang Hao had to fight back for self-preservation. As for Kaiyan Zunji being wounded, that was entirely because his skills were inferior to others, and no one else was to blame. Regarding the accusations from the Clear Sky Sect, Spirit Hall responded quickly, pointing out that the former Supreme Pontiff was not hunting down Tang Hao, but a 100,000-year spirit beast that had taken human form. As a spirit master, and as the Supreme Pontiff of Spirit Hall, it was the duty of Kaiyan Zunji to hunt it down upon discovering that a spirit beast had transformed into a human and infiltrated the human world. Yet Tang Hao actually wanted to protect that spirit beast, going so far as to incite a great war between the Clear Sky Sect and Spirit Hall, and even used despicable means to severely wound the Supreme Pontiff. The Clear Sky Sect failed to discipline its disciples strictly and condoned such behavior from its disciples, which was equally guilty. Upon learning of Spirit Hall's response, Tang Ziro was absolutely furious. What duty as the Supreme Pontiff of Spirit Hall to hunt down a spirit beast that had taken human form? It was clearly coveting Yin's 100,000-year spirit ring and spirit bone, yet they spoke so righteously. Immediately, he issued an order to respond. That 100,000-year spirit beast that had taken human form belonged to the Clear Sky Sect and had been subdued by Tang Hao. Kaiyan Zunji leading people to hunt it down was just wanting to kill for treasure, not for the stability of human society at all. Regarding the accusation of the Clear Sky sect, Spirit Hall responded again. Tang Hao did not subdue that 100,000-year spirit beast, but was bewitched by it, not only taking it as his wife, but also having a child with it. That bastard was the Tang San that the sky screen had exposed at the beginning. If Tang Hao had captured that spirit beast and wanted to kill it to absorb the spirit ring, the former Supreme Pontiff would definitely not have interfered. But that was not what he wanted to do. He wanted to hide the identity of that spirit beast, let it live in the Spirit Master's world as a human, and even have offspring with it, letting an unclean bloodline mix into the pure human civilization. As the Supreme Pontiff of Spirit Hall and a loyal believer of the angel god, the former Supreme Pontiff could not tolerate it, nor could he sit idly by, which was why he led the Sanctuary Spirit Masters to pursue the spirit beast. As for Tang Hao, before the fight, the former Supreme Pontiff had warned him repeatedly to step down, always trying to persuade him to turn back from his errors and not be bewitched by the beauty of a spirit beast to do things that disgrace the ancestors of the human race. However, Tang Hao was determined to collude with the spirit beast, abandoning even the bottom line of being a human. The response from Spirit Hall made the high-level members of the Clear Sky sect furious, cursing the other side for being shameless, twisting black and white, and having absolutely no shame. The war of words between the two top forces was naturally of great concern to others in the Spirit Master's world, all of whom paid close attention with 120% of their focus. It had to be said, this was truly exciting, no less intense than the fighting between aunties at the vegetable market. Shrek Academy. Upon learning the content of Spirit Hall's several responses, Tang Hao was so angry that his soul almost left his body, nearly dying of rage. What do you mean by abandoning the bottom line of being a human? Spirit Hall IF, your grandfather. Chapter 48, Tang San's background exposed, the seven devils harbor doubts. Tang Hao never believed that being with Ah Yin was a mistake. She was so good, so gentle, so beautiful. Why shouldn't he be allowed to be with her? So what if she was a spirit beast? I don't care. What business is it of anyone else if we are together? Can't I just like a spirit beast? And furthermore, talking about righteousness and high morals, that dog Kyan Zunji was clearly only after Ah Yin's 100,000-year spirit ring and spirit bone. If Ah Yin hadn't been a 100,000-year spirit beast, but merely a measly 10-year lone bamboo, would he have even come? He wouldn't have stepped a single foot out of his spirit city. Spirit Hall, you are all so shameless. You actually described the act of hunting down our whole family to seize a 100,000-year spirit ring and spirit bone as something so righteous and glorious, constantly gilding the face of that scoundrel Kyan Zunji. You even call yourselves believers of the angel god. If I were the angel god, I would definitely feel disgusted to have followers like you. Tang Hao clutched his chest, his liver aching with rage. If Kyan Dalu were not currently in front of him, he would have swung his clear sky hammer and fought to the death. This old dog praising his son to the high heavens while dragging me and Ah Yin down into the dust. It is simply shameless and insane. Not far from Tang Hao, the others from Shrek stood together. They were currently whispering to each other. Before, we only knew that Third Brother's whole family was persecuted by Spirit Hall, and that his mother was killed by the previous Supreme Pontiff of Spirit Hall, but I never expected that Third Brother's mother was actually. The expression on Ma Hongjian's face was somewhat awkward. He was the type of person who frequented brothels. Despite his young age, he had already experienced those kinds of intimate matters between men and women countless times. He could be said to be very clear about carnal pleasures, but this, a human and a spirit beast, he lifted his chin, imagining the scene of the two of them doing that kind of thing in his mind, and instantly his whole body shuddered. He dared not imagine it, found it hard to accept, and it even made him feel a bit nauseous. Not knowing Zyro Wu's true identity, his understanding of spirit beasts only existed within those he usually saw. Even though both the Clear Sky sect and Spirit Hall said that Tang San's mother was a spirit beast that had already transformed into a human, Ma Hongjian still couldn't imagine what she looked like. He could only imagine the true appearance of a spirit beast, and that appearance. In any case, he didn't have such a heavy taste. Little San's background is actually like this. Born from the hybridization of a human and a spirit beast, isn't that the same as the wolf taken? Daimyu Bai frowned and muttered. Over a month ago, upon learning that Tang Hao was not the murderer who killed Kyan Zunji, He had assumed that Spirit Hall would cancel its suppression of the Clear Sky sect, allowing the Clear Sky sect to take the opportunity to re-emerge. He had even been thinking of inviting the father and son, Tang Hao and Tang San, back to Douluo City to form an alliance with his Dai family, so that he could use Tang Hao's power to fight Dai Weishi and seize the position of Crown Prince. However, Dai Mubai glanced at Ning Rongrong beside him out of the corner of his eye. Because of this stinky girl, he had never been able to successfully persuade the father and son. Yes, Ning Rongrong also wanted to win over Tang Hao, wanting to take him to Heaven Du City to cooperate with the Heaven Du imperial family. She understood a little about the landscape of the Spirit Master's world, but not much. She knew some of the ways of cooperation, but wasn't proficient in them. She felt that since her father's 7 treasure glazed tile school was cooperating with the Heaven Du imperial family, if the Clear Sky sect were lured away by Dai Mubai and went to cooperate with the Star Lu Empire, wouldn't they become enemies with her 7 treasure glazed tile school in the future? Therefore, she constantly sabotaged Dai Mubai's efforts to win them over and urged Tang Hao and Tang San to go to Heaven Du City with her, saying she could have her father introduce them to Emperor Zhu Yi, and that cooperating with the Heaven Du imperial family was much safer than cooperating with the cold, emotionless Star Lu imperial family. With one side trying to win them over and the other side doing the same, perhaps truly conflicted, or perhaps wanting to wait for a better offer, the father and son, Tang Hao and Tang San, hadn't agreed to either side over the past month and simply continued to stay here at Shrek Academy. Seeing that they were slow to respond, Dai Mubai and Ning Rongrong had no choice but to wait here with them, waiting for their answer. Who would have thought that instead of an answer, they would end up waiting for an earth-shattering verbal war between the Clear Sky sect and Spirit Hall? With this, Tang San's background was thoroughly exposed to them. They also understood the reason why Tang Hao's wife was such a sacred figure that she would attract the pursuit of Spirit Hall. It must be said, a hybrid born from a human and a spirit beast. Perhaps because they hadn't experienced the life and death bonds like in the original novel, Dai Mubai, Ning Rongrong, and the others now harbored some reservations in their hearts regarding Tang San. Of course, they could still maintain a superficial friendliness. After all, everyone was still partners. Yes, still partners. Before on the sky screen, when Uncle Tang Hao met Yuan Kai had mentioned the matter of him mating with a spirit beast. I didn't take it seriously at the time, thinking I might have misheard, Oscar said in a low voice. Now it's proven that you didn't mishear, Zhu Zhuqing said coldly. Sigh tilde, Oscar let out a sigh. His good brother was suddenly not human, but half human, half beast. What kind of situation was this? Father, at this moment, a shout rang out. The group looked toward the sound, and saw Tang San walking back from outside the academy, holding Xiao Wu's hand. Tang Hao, who was in a fit of rage, heard his son's shout and his body paused abruptly. He turned around, his gaze falling on Tang San's superordinary face. He opened his mouth, his voice slightly hoarse as he said, "Little San, you're back." Yes. Tang San brought Xiao Wu to stand before Tang Hao and nodded at him. Then with a thud he knelt on the ground, his forehead pressed tightly against the ground, teeth clenched as he said, "I'm sorry, father. Watching you and mother be insulted, I currently have no ability to seek justice for you both, but please rest assured, I will definitely cultivate twice as hard. I will become a titled Douluo, or even a super Douluo like Xu Hen, and then, carrying the clear sky hammer you passed down to me, and the blue-silver grass mother passed down to me, I will go to Spirit Hall and make everyone who hurt you and mother pay the price with their lives." Speaking to this point, Tang San's eyes turned cold, and he emphasized, "Daring to insult my parents, they all have a path to death." Hearing Tang San's words, Tang Hao stood frozen on the spot. Moved, so moved. This is truly a good son for me and Ah Yin. Ha 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 tilde, Tang Hao laughed up at the sky in gratification, tears streaming uncontrollably from his eyes. Ah Yin, did you see that? Our little San has grown up, he has truly grown up, ha 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 tilde. His Excellency Heoshan. Tang Hao was laughing in gratification when, at this moment, an unpleasant voice rang out again. It was you, Xiaogang. He was holding a piece of paper in his hand and walking over quickly. He didn't care whether his disciple was a pure-blooded human or half-human, half-beast. Well, it wasn't that he didn't care, but rather he couldn't afford to care, because he couldn't find anyone more outstanding than Tang San who was also willing to take him as a master. Therefore, he still could only pin his hopes of proving his theory on Tang San. He walked up to Tang Hao, first reaching out to pat Tang San's shoulder as if encouraging him, then handed the paper in his hand to Tang Hao and said to him, "This is a letter sent by a friend of mine in Heaven Du City. The letter says that Spirit Hall has dispatched a large number of spirit masters to enter Heaven Du City, led by two titled Douluo, and attack the branch of the Clear Sky sect established there. Those Clear Sky sect disciples who had re-emerged in the branch were all killed." Tang Hao, who had just taken the paper, saw the expression on his face instantly freeze. Chapter 49. Tang Hao, who wants to find Zhu Hen. The Clear Sky sect had re-emerged, but because Spirit Hall had announced that even if someone else was responsible for killing the former Supreme Pontiff Qian Zunji, they would still be regarded as a hostile force, they did not dare to fully re-emerge. Only one elder led dozens of disciples down the mountain to establish a branch in Heaven Du City. The war of words initiated by the Clear Sky sect against Spirit Hall had this branch as its starting point for external operations. Now, Yu Xiaorogang had received news that Spirit Hall had taken action against that branch, sending two titled Douluo to kill all the disciples there. Even the elder had not been spared. Upon hearing this news, Tang Hao's expression stiffened, and subsequently anger filled his heart. "Ah!" he roared, "Damn Spirit Hall, damn the old ghosts of the Qian family." Even though they already knew that Qian Zunji was not killed by him, they still treated the Clear Sky sect this way. Spirit Hall was truly the #1 evil force on the continent. I, Tang Hao, will not coexist with Spirit Hall. Not far away, Dai Mubai and Ning Rongrong frowned at the same time. It wasn't just a war of words, Spirit Hall had also resorted to killing. In that case, it would be even harder for them to continue trying to win over Tang Hao and his son to Douluo City, Heaven Du City. Otherwise, if Spirit Hall found out and brought their wrath upon them, it would be disastrous. Because Qian Dalu and Bibai Dong had reached an agreement, Spirit Hall had not fallen into the internal strife that many had expected, so the current Spirit Hall remained a behemoth that was difficult for all factions to contend with. Unless necessary, no one dared to openly oppose them. Well, except for Ning Fengzhai. "Teacher, do you know which two titled Douluo did this?" Tang San stood up from the ground and asked Yu Xiaorogang. "It is said that one was shrouded in black shadows, and the other held a golden chrysanthemum. I think they must be the capable assistants under Qian Zunji back then, Ghost Douluo and Chrysanthemum Douluo. The sky screen had broadcasted matters related to them before," Yu Xiaorogang replied. "Ghost Douluo, Chrysanthemum Douluo, it's them again. They were among those who followed Qian Zunji to hunt down my parents back then, and now they are the ones leading people to kill the disciples of the Clear Sky sect." Tang San looked up at his angry father and said, "These two are truly guilty of heinous crimes and have already brought death upon themselves. In the future, I will definitely not let them go." "No need for the future, I will go slaughter them right now," Tang Hao said, clenching his fists. "Dad," upon hearing this, Tang San was immediately startled. "Grandmaster, I need to go out for a while. Please take care of little San and Zyro Wu during this time, along with Flenda," Tang Hao said to Yu Xiaorogang. "Your Excellency, this letter was sent 6 days ago. Those two titled Douluo should have already returned to Spirit City with their men by now. Are you planning to go to Spirit City to kill them? That must not be done," Yu Xiaorogang hurriedly advised Tang Hao. He was full of confidence in his idol's strength, but Spirit City was full of hidden talents, with many titled Douluo. Even one-on-one, they could not beat Tang Hao, but what if they swarmed him? Two fists cannot fight four hands. I know that going to Spirit City to kill them is unrealistic. I'm not that stupid. I am going to Heaven Du City. Heaven Du City, Yu Xiaorogang and Tang San were both stunned. "Gui Mei and Yu Guan killed our Clear Sky sect disciples in Heaven Du City, so I will go and slaughter all of their Spirit Hall spirit masters in Heaven Du City. Last month, didn't that Zhu Hen kill the Platinum Bishop of the Spirit Temple? Good, let me go and finish what he didn't. I will kill everyone in that Spirit Temple, and let Spirit Hall experience the feeling of their own people being killed. Then I will go find that Zhu Hen." Find him, the expressions of Yu Xiaorogang and Tang San changed simultaneously. Yes, didn't the sky screen mention before that Zhu Hen used a Kaiying Tongshan Chrysanthemum immortal herb to hire Gui Mei and Yu Guan to accompany him out to sea to hunt a spirit beast named Deep Sea Demon Whale King? On the sky screen, Bibai Dong was still the Supreme Pontiff. Gui Mei and Yu Guan knew that Bibai Dong regarded Zhu Hen as an enemy, yet they still accepted the deal, which shows that the immortal herb was very important to them, so much so that they were willing to offend the Supreme Pontiff for it. Tang Hao took a deep breath and said seriously, I am going to find that Zhu Hen. No matter what method I use, I will get the Kaiying Tongshan Chrysanthemum immortal herb from him, and then I will use this immortal herb to lure Gui Mei and Yu Guan out of Spirit City, then use the clear sky hammer to pound them into pulp. Tang San and Yu Zhairogang's mouths were slightly agape, both astonished by Tang Hao's idea. Soon they reacted. Yu Zhairogang didn't say anything, but Tang San was very excited. Dad, the Kaiying Tongshan Chrysanthemum is a neutral immortal herb. Consuming it circulates Kai through the limbs, clears the blood through the 8 meridians, and can forge an indestructible body. If you can get this immortal herb from Zhu Hen, you must remember to be careful. Do not let it be damaged during your battle with Ghost Douluo and Chrysanthemum Douluo. Bring it back for me to eat. Bring it for me to refine medicine. The medicine I refine might be able to heal your old injuries. An indestructible body, a blade of grass with the same name as Yu Guan's spirit has this effect. Tang Hao was somewhat surprised. He quickly agreed to Tang San, good, I've noted that. There was one thing he hadn't actually said. He wasn't just going to find Zhu Hen to ask for the immortal herb. He also wanted to inquire about the resurrection-type spirit ability he had obtained, which was mentioned on the sky screen when he attached the second 100,000-year spirit ring to the Emerald Swan. Tang Hao wanted to know what kind of effect that resurrection-type spirit ability actually had. Could it revive the deceased at will, or were there certain restrictions? Could it revive his Yin? If it could, then he would spare no cost to beg Zhu Hen to help him revive his beloved. Acting on his decision, Tang Hao packed his things simply and soon left Shrek Academy under the gaze of Tang San, Yu Zhairogang, and the others, embarking on the road to Heaven Du City. Although Tang Hao had gone to Heaven Du City, he hadn't been won over by her to be introduced to the Heaven Du imperial family, so Ning Rongrong lacked interest in this. However, before Tang Hao left, he said he was going to deal with Zhu Hen, which perked Ning Rongrong up a bit. Regarding the matter of her cousin aunt having plotted against Zhu Hen and his mother, she had already inquired through the sky screen and asked the learned grandmaster, Yu Zhairogang, and understood it clearly. During this period, Zhu Hen had caused a scene at the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. Her cousin aunt had been killed in an alley in Heaven Du City by a spirit master suspected to be Yuan Kai, and Zhu Hen had personally killed her cousin aunt's son, who was also his own brother, Prince Zhu Tian. Ning Rongrong had heard about these things too. She hoped that with the death of her cousin aunt and her son, that Zhu Hen could let go of his past hatred and no longer vent his anger on the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. If Zhu Hen still wanted to vent his anger, then she hoped that Tang Hao would fail to get the immortal herb, then get into a huge fight with Zhu Hen, and finally beat that Zhu Hen to death. Well, anyone who threatens our 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School deserves to die. Chapter 50, Du Gubo joins 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. Heaven Du City, inside the 4 Seasons Inn. Moon Pavilion is still closed today, it seems. Seems Lady Yuehua has not yet recovered from the death of her 4th uncle, Zhu Beng said while sitting on the sofa peeling an orange, speaking to Zhu Hen who was sitting by the window basking in the sun. Zhu Hen nodded without saying much. Seeing this, Zhu Beng asked curiously, Brother, the sky screen once played scenes of the future. Bibai Dong questioned Ghost Douluo and Chrysanthemum Douluo, saying they were bought off by you with an immortal herb, a Kaiying Tongshan Chrysanthemum, and even promised to help you hunt spirit beasts. How come they didn't come to find you when they came to Heaven Du City to ask about that immortal herb? Don't they want it anymore? I don't know, Zhu Hen replied. Brother, I heard that Lady Yuehua's 4th uncle, that is, that elder of the Clear Sky Sect, was actually a titled Douluo. Doesn't the Clear Sky Sect only have 2 spirit masters above rank 90, Zhairoshan Douluo and Clear Sky Douluo? To think there was a 3rd one, it's truly shocking. Zhu Beng continued to gossip with Zhu Hen while eating an orange. No need to be shocked. They still have a 4th, a 5th, Zhu Hen said lightly, looking at the passers-by outside the window. Zhu Beng choked suddenly, struggling for a moment before swallowing the orange. He looked at Zhu Hen with disbelief. There are more. Brother, how do you know that? Zhu Hen did not answer his question. Seeing this, Zhu Beng wisely skipped that and asked instead, then how many titled Douluo do they actually have? Not counting Tang Hao, there are 5 more, Zhu Hen said. Zhu Beng gasped. Before the Clear Sky sect closed its mountain, they only had 2 titled Douluo. After closing the mountain, they actually have so many more. It's terrifying, simply terrifying. However, thinking of the great battle he knew about where Spirit Hall destroyed the Clear Sky sect's branch, and the performance of that 4th elder of the Clear Sky sect, he couldn't help but shake his head. Although he was a titled Douluo, that 4th elder's rank didn't seem very high. Not to mention being beaten to death while 1 against 2 during the battle. Some people saw him clash with Chrysanthemum Douluo Yu Guan using their 6th spirit ability. Yu Guan was fine, but he was knocked flying. What does this mean? It means his strength was not as strong as Yu Guan's. After all, both sides used their 6th spirit ability. Zhu Hen glanced at Zhu Beng from the corner of his eye. Watching his small movements and the expression on his face, he guessed what he was thinking, so he said to him lightly, "The titled Douluo of the Clear Sky sect, except for Tang Zyro, all have spirit power below rank 95. They are not inferior to Du Gubo, but they are completely incomparable to titled Douluo like Gui Mei and Yu Guan, who have already reached rank 95. So that's how it is. There is a gap in spirit power." Zhu Beng nodded, secretly thinking this was the same as what he had guessed. However, "Brother, isn't it said that the Clear Sky Hammer is the #1 tool spirit in the world? Can't it make up for some of the gap?" Zhu Beng asked Zhu Hen. Any spirit that can be cultivated by a spirit master to the realm of titled Douluo is not bad. It is the #1 in the world, but others are not trash either. Being able to make up for a few ranks of spirit power gap is only possible below rank 40. Oh, Zhu Beng put on a look of having learned something. Then he looked at Zhu Hen. He actually had another question in his heart, but he felt it wasn't good to say it, so he held back and didn't ask. He actually wanted to ask Zhu Hen, since the Emerald Swan is the best of the healing-type spirits, then the Imperial Power Sword spirit that was born as a twin to it must also be the best of the attack system spirits. He didn't know which one was stronger, the Imperial Power Sword or the Clear Sky Hammer. He held back and didn't ask, thinking about it in his heart. In the end he felt, perhaps maybe, the Clear Sky Hammer is still a bit stronger, right? After all, it is the recognized #1 in the world. At this time, Zhu Beng did not know that not long after, he would be told the answer to this question by a great battle. On the other side, in the Heaven Dew Imperial Palace. Is Zhu Beng going to Henna's place again today? Emperor Zhu Yi sat upright in the head seat and asked Prince Yu Xing below. Prince Yu Xing had a smile on his face, resting his right hand on his left chest, and replied, "Yes, Imperial brother. Over this past month, the relationship between the 2 brothers has improved a lot. Every time Zhu Beng goes to Zhu Hen's place, he opens the door to let him in." Emperor Zhu Yi nodded with satisfaction and said happily, "This kid has finally done something decent. He is not completely useless." Imperial brother, in my opinion, it won't be long before Zhu Beng successfully persuades Zhu Hen to return to the Imperial family. At that time, our Heaven Dew Imperial family will have a rank 98 Super Douluo. Even if Spirit Hall does not have internal strife, we will no longer need to fear them excessively. Prince Yu Xing said to Emperor Zhu Yi while striking while the iron was hot, hoping that Emperor Zhu Yi's impression of Zhu Beng could improve a bit more. After all, times have changed. In the past, the uncle and nephew were afraid that Zhu King would harm them, so they had no choice but to pretend to be hopeless. But now their relationship with Zhu Hen is okay, and can even be said to be getting better and better. And since Zhu Hen also knows about Zhu King's dirty deeds, they, uncle and nephew, must change their strategy, shifting from self-preservation to competition. They want to rely on the fire that is Zhu Hen to snatch the position of Crown Prince from Zhu King. If that can happen, I will definitely reward him heavily, Emperor Zhu Yi said with anticipation. Your subject, this younger brother, thanks you on behalf of Zhu Beng, Imperial brother. Oh, by the way, I heard that Poison Douluo has left. Emperor Zhu Yi suddenly thought of something and asked Zhu Exing. Hearing this question, the smile on Prince Zhu Exing's face stiffened suddenly, and then he nodded somewhat unnaturally, replying, "Yes, he saw me and Zhu Beng getting closer and closer to Zhu Hen, and felt that we had abandoned him, disregarding the fact that his granddaughter was injured by Zhu Hen, her meridians damaged, and she would have difficulty mobilizing her spirit power in the future." HMPH, hearing the reply, Emperor Zhu Yi immediately let out a cold snort and spoke up for Zhu Hen. That granddaughter of his is overbearing and vicious, liking to poison people at every turn. Henna is such a broad-minded child. Even when Kundra treated him like that, he didn't take action against him. Those spirit masters in the spirit temple, Henna could kill them with a wave of his hand, yet he let them all go. For such a good child to deal such a heavy blow to his granddaughter, He doesn't reflect on whether he taught his granddaughter poorly, but instead blames you and Zhu Beng. It is simply unreasonable. Don't worry about him, a mere rank 91 titled Douluo, we don't care. We have our own Qilin child, having my good nephew is enough. If he wants to leave, let him leave. Let that person surnamed Dugu get as far away as possible. Yes, Imperial brother, Prince Yuzing sighed in his heart and bowed in response. He knew that his Imperial brother was speaking out of anger, not to mention that Zhu Hen had not yet returned to the Imperial family, even if he had, who would complain about having too many titled Douluo on their side. It was just that Dugu Bo had already left, and there was no chance to retain him, so he just said a few words to vent, which was also self-consolation, so as not to feel too much regret. As for where Dugu Bo went after leaving the Imperial family, Prince Yuzing had sent people to investigate and found. He might have gone to the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. That's it for today's chapter. If you enjoyed it, like, comment, and subscribe to AI Otaku Studio for more stories. Check out my other channel, Infinite Novel Audio, and I'll see you in the next chapter.